Hello.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome.
Welcome to the Talking Shedheads podcast.
Yeah.
Fuck off, it's the Talking Shed.
Yeah, podcast number 40. Wow.
40 of them.
That's a
More than 40, 50 hours. More than 50 hours.
yeah.
60 probably.
Yeah, we talked for quite a little while.
More than 60 hours you get to listen to our beautiful voice. I really wish I was born with like a really pretty voice to listen to.
Yeah. I was. No.
No, you've got so much better voice than me.
Oh, that's funny.
It's too bad some dumb shit comes out of your mouth sometimes.
Yeah, I don't think hey, you too, buddy. I don't think either of us have the best voice. But I guess I have got like a smoother voice.
Yeah, yours is smoother. I mean, mine can go deeper. I can manipulate it how I want to. It's just not me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't fucking know. Anyway,
when I first heard Markiplier's voice, I wasn't a fan. Can you believe that?
I mean, I wasn't huge on it. I didn't fucking like.
He's known for it though.
Yeah, he's known for it.
He
but
loves
like,
his voice.
yeah, but I don't find it to be like. You know, maybe this is another podcast topic for another day. Let's rank different YouTubers' voices,
Yeah.
or put them in a tier list. I'd smack Markiplier down at B, honestly.
I like his voice now, but
getting a fat B.
when I first heard it, I thought I was just like, "Oh, what a weird voice!" Because I was used to PewDiePie over Let's Plays or whatever. But then whoever,
Old PewDiePie gets a B, but new one gets a C. Honestly,
you know, who's really bad is Ethan. Ethan from Great Gameplays. I mean, I love him, but goddamn it can be hard to listen to.
It really matches his personality, though. Like when you actually watch his videos, and like whenever he commentates, it's just like, of course that voice is gonna come out of his mouth.
Yeah, you know, we'd have some hot takes because I really like Jacksepticeye, even though he's known for being obnoxious.
S tier right off the bat, critical.
Huh? I'd have to watch him a little more.
Voice.
All right.
Especially when like his older stuff, where I just be like, "Hey, what's up, guys? It's critical."
Okay.
You know, the first time I actually watched this stuff was like when he played a horror. I think it was Layers of Fear, and I was just impressed at like how little he emoted at anything happening, and it was so entertaining.
Yeah,
itself.
like YMS.
No, even more. Why? Like YMS, he emotes clearly when he plays the games.
Oh, when he plays games, yeah.
Yeah. Critical not only sounded like so depressed, but was just like not scared at all for any game.
Chris Stuckman has the best
like,
voice.
Not even remotely. Oh yeah.
Especially in podcasts. Hi. Oh man. Well, I'm glad we had a little opener. It's been a minute since we've had one. Totally irrelevant from what we are talking about today.
I mean, low key, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. What did you have more to say?
Oh no, just thinking about starting my own podcast and just having all the time in the world to ramble on shit.
Yeah.
Actually stream it, you know.
Yeah, Ramble's like a different type of podcast. Which is kind of what we started a bit more.
Well, there would still be a central topic.
Yeah.
Maybe like one as opposed to like the Rex. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe we'll talk about some dumb shit at you in like in 10 weeks or so. But for today we've got a topic. So let's get into the rules, the explanations. Just like we did last time we did something like this. We're gonna do Charlie Kaufman written films, and we're gonna rank them. There are 8 of them. So the ones that we're going to do, I think in chronological order. I don't know when one of them came out actually, but being John Malkovich, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, Human Nature, Adaptation, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Synecdoche, New York, Anomalisa, and I'm Thinking of Ending Things. I did it.
In no particular order. Yeah, he did that all without looking at a list.
Well, I tried to put them in chronological order, but I get confused around like where the 2 that I wasn't familiar with before come in. Human Nature and Confessions. So yeah, what we're going to do is we haven't like agreed upon a list or anything. We're going to do this like we did our David Lynch ranked list, which is really honestly not a great format because we just go back and forth and we have different 10s, 9s, 8s, or whatever.
I thought it was fine. I thought it was serviceable and was actually interesting.
Basically, the idea is that when I do my like number 8, it's probably gonna be different from yours, and then we're gonna talk about what we enjoy and don't enjoy. We'll give our own mini reviews for each of these as we go.
As an overall disclaimer,
go for it.
it's probably going to be on the shorter side because just the nature of these films, it's going to be impossible for us to like really dive in and really go into as much depth as we would like to. This is I would like to.
Yeah, there are going to be one or two that I want to go in depth on. But it's
like
gonna
not nearly as much as if say that we had just one podcast, like the whole second half
for the movie
or whatever. Yeah, for one movie. Because there are so many things to unpack with all these, and second of all, quite frankly, I've only seen most of these movies once, and I feel I was definitely insufficient in order for me to talk about them with any confidence.
Right. I've seen them all at least twice now. Because I rewatched them all for this, and I've seen some of them multiple times. So, that's pretty much it. I'm hoping some of our things line up so we can just have like a little back and forth. But I honestly, guys, I'm gonna say it right now. I don't know if any number spot will line up. Maybe number 1.
No, not number. No. I don't know about number 1. Or it's not gonna be top or bottom is what I mean.
Yeah,
it's not gonna be the top 2 or even 3 or the last one. It's probably like one of them in the middle is probably gonna line up.
So your number 1 switched out because I had some classified info on what it was for a little bit.
Right.
Cool.
We've been kind of blending more and more with info as it goes on with the podcast.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, I don't want to pretend as though that the Shining miniseries is any good.
Yeah.
For one,
which will be part of next week's discussion.
It's gonna be next week, so look forward to that. I'm not.
But when we do like these ranked ones, we just kind of talk about it free reign, and then we come back and do our own reviews on the podcast. So yeah, let's do it. It might be a while before we do another one of these. I don't think they're your favorite thing to do.
No, it's gonna be. I was just about to comment on that because I was thinking David Lynch and this, had me watch 8 movies, within the span of a week. I think this was like a week and a half though. Not entirely impossible, but I'm not. It's just never sitting right with me because I won't be able to talk about these movies as in-depthly as much as I would like to.
Right.
And if we were these 8 movies, it'd be at least a 5-hour podcast.
Yeah.
If we were talking about them as much as I would want to, which maybe is why I might be doing my own podcast, but I highly doubt that anyway.
I want to go in and do our own reviews for each of these, and of course, if any numbers line up, that'd be cool to do like a little back and forth on it.
I mean, these are cool, and it was really neat to make my way through all these movies. Some more than others, clearly. But just with these movies themselves too, I mean, it's gonna sound very vague, for those who don't know. I mean, we'll get into it obviously later.
Yeah, in a minute.
But for those who do know, it's gonna be really hard to talk about them on like one watch through because as earlier mentioned, YMS, he's said multiple times that you haven't really watched it if you've only watched it once.
For a couple of these at least, yeah.
No, quite a few.
Yeah,
there were like 3 or 4 he said that about, and that I would also have to agree with.
Well,
same thing with with music. You can't say you've heard an album if you've only. Well, I mean, you can say you've heard it, but you can't say you listened to it. There's a difference between hearing and listening.
That's why we do at least 3, and even that's not enough sometimes. But let's.
But sometimes, honestly, 2 is enough, depending.
Yeah.
Really depending. Yeah.
Overall, though, and you're not really like a kind of person to rewatch a movie. Like, at least you like to take like a year at least to like go back to something usually.
What? Hold on. Run that by me again.
I said you're not usually the kind of person who wants to rewatch a movie. At least like not right away.
Not now. That back in the day. Back in the day, that used to be way different because I would be much more. It'd be much more rare for me to discover something new, and instead I would just kind of revisit old things.
Yeah.
Which is why I've watched The Shining like so many times, as is why I've listened to, the White Album so many times as well. Just because whenever it's just something I knew,
Yeah.
And discovering something new, there's a good chance I wouldn't like it. And maybe back in the day I thought like, oh, that's time wasted.
Right.
But spent 75 hours completing Dark Souls 2, so clearly that's out the fucking window. Oh man.
All right. So okay, general thoughts. How'd you like his filmography in general?
Impressive.
Okay, good.
Very impressive, to say the least.
That's good to hear. Yeah.
I mean, I would say consistently good, but you can also say that about David Lynch. And yeah, for Kaufman needs a little bit more clarity for how I view the quality on them.
Right. Your quality and your feelings on a movie aren't always going to line up, I think we're going to see.
No.
Yeah.
And that's normal.
That's cool.
That's interesting. It is a cool thing.
It's interesting.
More and more you're starting to see like kind of my perspective on things with that. It is really interesting. There's like a robot one like rating out of 10, like how you feel about it, which is roughly like what we base it on.
Yeah.
Right. Anyways,
should be just considered to a degree, but there are a lot of movies that don't like hit it for me, and I'm like, this is at least an 8 because it's like perfectly done. But yeah, so we'll get into all the intricacies of that as we go.
Not all of them.
Okay, well, as much as we can.
I would love to say that, but I can't say that and like really mean it.
Yeah, literally for a couple of these movies, I took notes on all of them today. And a couple of them, like towards the top, believe it or not, I was just like, I don't know. I don't know. I can't talk about it. There's too much.
Well, you've mentioned notes.
Yeah.
To me a couple times today. Yeah. First of all, again, if it's slippery slope for me, because if I start writing notes, I'll end up writing a fucking essay, and then I'll be like, oh, I can't. I only just finished this movie.
Right. Well, yeah.
Also, fuck. Damn you.
What?
I lost my train of thought.
Oh, okay.
But I have been thinking about them throughout the day, in the past few days, and like number ratings and how I genuinely feel about them.
Yeah. And
what I think of them in terms of like, in terms of quality and all that. Before we get into it though, because we're about to.
Yeah.
Again, one last kind of preemptive thing. For those of you who have watched the last podcast last week, if you haven't, recommend it. It's a pretty good one, I say.
Yeah.
You're trying to think. You're trying to like, oh fuck, what are you talking about?
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yes.
And the Smiths.
And Smiths.
Queen is Dead.
Yes. And I didn't mention this to you at all because I did want to like save it for the podcast. But based on like the most of our discussion on One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, being the two main characters, I'm gonna here we go. Big moment for you. I'm gonna admit that I was wrong.
About what?
I believe I was wrong about Nurse Ratchet's character.
Oh, why? Just you thought about it more?
Yeah, I thought about it more, and I also realized that I'd forgotten a scene when we were talking about it, and that's when she was trying to do the therapy session with Billy, and she was basically forcing things out of him and just kind of like just being, really malicious in her intent.
Right.
And that for me is a line of like, okay, she clearly doesn't want to fucking help people. And so then that recontextualized a whole lot of things for me, and I was like, oh fuck, yeah, James was right.
Well, that's big of you. I mean, I'm not like, yeah, I win. Fuck you. Like, nah. I mean, that's not what it's about.
No, and yeah,
we just interpret it.
I'm human. I can be fallible. I made a mistake. You can still make mistakes while talking about things objectively. I just completely forgot about that scene because I like if you listen back, I was like, no, there wasn't like really any tells that like I didn't say you were wrong. I just didn't think of it that way because I didn't think there were many. There was an inclusion that would say otherwise. But that scene is one. So There you go. There that is. Nice and wrapped up.
Cool. So then I guess we should get into it. I was going to say something else, but I don't know if there's anything to say. I guess it'll probably just come up as we go. We're doing our own, like I said, little rapid fire stuff. So basically what I did is I wrote down what I think on each movie, so I don't take up too much time, since there's not going to be as much back and forth. You're going to have your thoughts about a movie out before I do, and I'm going to have mine about a movie before you do. So it gives us a good, even playing field to say what we each want to get across about the movie. It's not as much like discussion oriented as our other stuff, of course, we can throw in some stuff here and there, and I'm sure we'll get into little arguments. I too say things that aren't agreeable to everyone. We're both going to do that today.
No.
So
No, you do not.
So yeah.
I mean, largely, you do, but like just some things,
Well, you too, yeah. If we're arguing, that's just.
Well, I don't know. It's all like personal stuff. Is what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And did any of these movies like really stick with you and you thought about it a lot or not?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Like absolutely.
Okay, because I didn't get the impression that like they hit you in that way.
You'd be subhuman to like not have it reflect to you, or like, or you just wouldn't have to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
No, like that's phrased improperly. You would, you would have to be not like consciously not thinking about the movie for it to not like affect you. But that's the other quality that I would like put onto all these movies is depressing.
Yeah, well, most of them.
Yeah, most of them. Not like all exclusively depressing, but introspective. That's
right.
the large word.
Right.
The big boy word. There you go.
So, do we want this to end with your number one or my number one? Because mine's going to be obvious.
That's up to you.
Because that depends on which one we start with at our number 8.
We can flip a coin.
I think we did your first. When we did David Lynch, I think we went with you first. Okay.
I'm
just going to say I'll do it first. Heads.
Alexa, flip a coin. No, you dumb bitch. She said something about phone number. Alexa, flip a coin. You should believe when I say that. What? Okay, you know what?
Wow.
I'm gonna tell it to Google.
I think maybe I should just start.
All right.
Because I think when we did David Lynch, you started.
Call it.
Okay, red. No, red.
Red?
Heads. Heads. I already said heads. I already said heads. What do you want?
Okay, then it's ending on your number one.
It's ending on my number one.
A coin, call it red.
All right. Oh, well, okay. So what happened is with David Lynch, we both agreed on the bottom two. We aren't going to agree here. That I already know. So let's get into it.
So this whole list is also should be you should base this on how else we discuss movies and think about it. So it'd be worth it to watch at least one other podcast where we talk about a movie.
Maybe the last one.
Yeah, the last one in particular. That way, there's some continuity with what I mentioned earlier.
Or go watch us talk about Eternal Sunshine, because we already did that at one point.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
And so we're going to probably talk about it a little less here.
Yeah, there's also that pattern too, where you recommended me a David Lynch and a Kaufman movie, and then we ended up watching all of them anyway.
Yeah.
Decided to rank them.
Okay.
But based on our opinions...
Mm-hmm. Go for it. Your number...
In all of their glory.
Your number 8.
Here we go. My number 8.
Yeah. Controversial. I already know.
Well, yeah, why did you have to say it?
Oh, wait.
You don't even know if
let me hit the lab button here. Okay, go.
Being John Malkovich.
Yeah.
That's my bottom one.
big controversial take. Right. I love it.
I'll show my way out.
Yeah, you go for it.
Okay, that's why there's so much preamble. Well, frankly, I'm going to start off with saying I've only seen this movie once, and I'm complicated on my feelings of it. Feelings, keyword. And I would need to watch it again. Obviously, have more thought to be able to talk about things more concretely and objectively.
Sure.
But honestly, I'm not really as passionate to do that with this movie, and I just frankly lack, lots of knowledge to do that or to discuss things at length.
Sure.
But overall, how I feel is that this movie is overly cynical in its character writing.
Yeah, you hated it.
Yeah. And not even in they're likable. It's just, it felt just so contrived that every character has to do something innately despicable and selfish. Mm-hmm. It just felt not genuine or human, really. The concept was interesting. It's actually really neat and funny, Mm-hmm. Having all the all I have to say is Malkovich.
Yeah,
that's really funny. And also the girl character gesturing to the male lead to just jump off the window when he said oh, I can't take this anymore. Just delivery on that.
I don't know how I can keep living.
Yeah, the darker humor, really great, but he tried to I know what he was going for. I was trying to elevate that higher to it be just a dark comedy, just entirely, just including plot. but I felt as though there are lots of places where like it contradicted itself.
Hmm.
And again, I would need a rewatch and things like that to cite where.
Sure.
But you just have to take my word on that.
Yeah, and again, I'm being quiet, so you would just have the floor until I talk about the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Because we clearly feel very different about it.
Yeah.
Let's see. And even then, it's still kind of hard to remember some places of it. I don't know. I just had more questions than I did answers when I was watching this movie.
Sure.
You know? And it even, like, brought it up. It felt like on the nose where it was like, oh, there's so many, like, ethical, like, things about this, about, like, what we're able to do here. And then we was just like,
yeah.
Why don't we fucking do anything like that? Why don't we do anything like exploring that? And I felt that was a hugely wasted opportunity. And it could be, in fact, the message is that it has all these things that set up, but it purposely chooses not to explore it. But I just felt empty out of the experience.
Yeah,
I didn't really have anything to take away from it other than like, oh, these people were shitty.
I didn't touch on that in my... Oh, go for it.
Yeah. That these people are shitty and that, I mean, there was very clearly like, oh, nobody wants to be in the life they're in instead of want to be someone famous. But like, and I see why I wouldn't like really dive into it because frankly, that's pretty on the nose as a theme of this movie. But it really just didn't touch on any of that afterwards. It progressively got, more and more out of hand to play more of the comedy and everything. Though the ending was frighteningly scary and tragic.
Tragic?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Tragic in the theatrical sense.
Sure.
So, like, it's tragic for the main character, not like tragic as in like, oh, the fucking dog died.
Yeah. Yeah, he gets stuck in the baby.
Yeah, but even then...
Spoilers for everything.
Yeah, but even then it's karmic justice, because he locked his girlfriend in a fucking cage when he had an opportunity to get back at her, but, like, he clearly had other options to exercise, but instead wanted to get his kinks out. I don't fucking know. It just seemed wildly out of character for him to do that. Or not to do that, but to come to that conclusion from at the point where he was.
Sure.
Just an example.
Yeah, so like I said, I'll touch on it now because it's not in my review. Like all the things that it brings up, and then it's just like, like to me that is a joke in and of itself. It's one that's not funny to you.
No.
And that's fair.
Well, it's the same reason why, like, some people use satire in their reviews. Like, sure, it can be funny, but like when it comes to something actually to be said, I'm lacking substance in that area.
I can't blame you.
And then it becomes an excuse for them to just outright do really dumb things, in the movie and be like, oh, it's for comedy, even when like even if the comedy falls flat, it's just like, you don't think about it. Like, it's more of an excuse than anything of like, oh, here's this contrivance. It's meant for humor. It's like, but that's not. I mean, you see what I mean? It doesn't sit right.
I get what it means.
Like, you toss that excuse.
For you, and I'll go over my thoughts when I get there. But yeah, so that's that. You want to slap your number on it, everybody?
Well, the robot score would be more like a 6 through 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
Really depending. And I'd probably be more inclined to give it a 6 on a rewatch, but right as it stands, it's a 5.
Really?
Simply because I just didn't enjoy it very much.
Okay.
I understood and can respect like what it's aiming for. It just falls flat on multiple areas for me.
Okay.
And I didn't really get much of the hype for it.
I gotta say you have it logged as a 3 out of 10 in Letterboxd. So I was ready for that big like boom. Mic drop. I hate this movie.
Oh no! It's not a dislike. I mean, obviously, I thought about it more, but afterwards, of course, like the feeling afterwards is just like okay, this was. It was
a pretty
clearly. This movie had an agenda. It feels like
an emotional response of like that pissed me off.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Also, what's his name? The fucking grumpy dude in every America's Got Talent thing. Simon Cowell.
Sure.
Is that his name?
What about him?
His cameo in this movie.
He was in this?
Is that the right person I'm thinking of?
I don't think it is. No, but I don't know. Do you mean Brad Pitt was in it for like a second? He has some cameos in a couple of these, actually, so that's funny.
Oh, no, it's Charlie Sheen.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay. Him and Simon Cowell look so identical to me.
That's so funny.
But yeah, Charlie Sheen's cameo is really, really good. Really funny.
I really like that. I forgot about that. Okay, cool. You ready for my number 8?
There's
then?
also this league of old people. It didn't make any fucking sense. All right.
Okay. All right, my number 8. Probably not unpopular to have this one at the bottom, or towards the bottom. I put Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
I'm not surprised. You don't talk very fondly of this movie. But the floor is yours.
Yeah, things to note. I've seen it once. Here's my review. Competent and decent film, but forgettable, which in my book is one of the worst things a Kaufman project could be. Definitely felt more like a Clooney project. This was directed by George Clooney. Not exactly sure what Kaufman brought to the table. There was a lot of weird color grading. I'm not sure what that was for. It didn't seem to serve like an artistic purpose or anything.
I'm not quite sure what you mean, but it could be to like reflect more of the time period it was in, because this is set like what at like the birth of modern television, right?
Yeah, so this movie's like about, and I don't remember most of it. Like that's what I don't like, but so I shouldn't really talk about it even too much. But I know it's this guy. He's in showbiz, and he's also like a assassin or something, right? Or he's caught up in that shit in
well, yeah,
big shit.
It supposedly is based on a true story, and the movie obviously paints it as though like he was forced into it or like swindled into it, or like something he can't leave.
Yeah,
but at least the parts where it actually goes into him as a person that existed, and you know his manifesto, if you can call it that, like his little thing that he typed up at the end explaining everything, sounded much more that like he was much more deliberate in what he wanted to do.
You remember it more than me. I know that much. To me, like this one was hard to pay attention to. Even I don't know. I should rewatch it, I'm gonna say, but for now, and probably it's going to stay at the bottom of my list considering who we're talking about. We're talking about Charlie Kaufman, and for the most part, spoiler, I love most of these movies in one way or another. This one's going to sit at the bottom for me. It's the only one here too that doesn't feel like Kaufman. It doesn't feel like Kaufman, you know?
Feel like Kaufman.
Yeah.
It didn't make me reflect on myself and get really depressed about myself.
Yeah. And the last note I had was the cool Brad Pitt and Matt Damon cameos. George Clooney called in some favors, everyone. But yeah, like I led with it. It is competent and it is decent for what it is. It had a moment or two that got me to care a bit more, but generally didn't do it for me. And I think I wrote a 6 out of 10, but I'm talking about like it's totally a 5. So maybe I should say 5 until I rewatch it.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Your number 7.
My number 7. It's gonna sound like there's an echo in here, but Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
Okay. Right.
Of course, it's gonna be close to my bottom.
Yeah.
And I mostly agree with what you're saying. But it's not really the reason why it's so low. I mean, I don't dislike it because it's not as Kaufman-esque as the other ones,
which is good. We should have one of us who doesn't have that as an argument.
But we're out of the comparison. Of course, it's going to land like near the bottom to the rest of the other movies. But I would say there's definitely more to get out of the other ones as opposed to this one, especially in terms of an artistic statement. Because as it stands for this one, there's not really one to be had because it's framed more of a, based on a true story type of thing, which is totally fine. It doesn't, not saying that movies can't be that.
Right. Adaptation tried. We'll get there.
I did find the character motivations to be a bit hazy. Because like I said, when you were talking about it, it's unclear whether or not like how willing he was, like truly or not, to be in the, and to be working with the CIA.
Mm-hmm.
And the fucking ending where like where what the dispatcher, the agent that he's working closely with, like was a double crossed him to like, or she was the rat, the mole or whatever, but then he like double crossed her because he planned on it, because he fucking switched the drinks that were poison in anticipation of her doing that. It was like it's just totally fucking a dumb thing to be in this movie. Like it was just such a trite and generic like action movie type of move to pull. You know, like you get that like oh shit moment, but like it's still like it. I don't know.
Fair enough.
Predictable ending, just overdone as well.
I'm not going to pretend to remember, so don't take my word on this movie very clearly.
And what was his plan if she had anticipated his initial move, or if it didn't work out and he ended up getting poisoned, just die, you know?
Yeah.
And because he was just overly confident and suave about it, he faked being dead, and then it finally hit her, and then like, yeah, and first of all, she does the gloat thing when like the total comic booky villain. Now, even comic book villains have higher standards than this, where like she'd go through a monologue or taunt him as he's dying.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
this is just gonna sound like I already said it my part, but it's just gonna sound so biased and like delusional. But I'm just like, I don't know what Kaufman did with this movie. Like, did he write any of this?
Well, compared to his other work, but like. That's kind of implying that he's got only one writing trick in his book. Like he could be working on a whole bunch of other things.
Yeah, I just like, where's the voice in this movie? That's what's missing for me, I guess. A unique like voice. I don't know if you'd see that.
I'm struggling to see what you mean by a voice to have in this. Just like a central message trying to get across, or
no, the voice of like. Whoever wrote it, like a lot of movies you'll watch and it doesn't feel like
oh, so you mean like intention from the screenwriter or director, like being more
anything? Yeah, nothing.
In the art form.
Yeah, nothing. It feels like kind of more generic.
Well, that's why I said it's not really an artistic statement, but it's not really the movie's fault, because it is like based on a true story type of thing.
Right. I'll let you get back to it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh no, I will agree. It's mostly forgettable, but like that's a subjective thing.
Right.
Like I said, I need to rewatch too, and. I hate that the conversation has like led to retreading that, but it's true.
I would rewatch this because I would want to have a better understanding of where I stand on it. But yeah, I think this is about it.
There's like a lot of things that weren't clear, and the movie did repeat itself lots of times with like, oh, he's got a new show, and he pushes it, and it's like really like everyone views it as trash because TV is trash. Yeah, it's like getting super huge ratings. You know, and it's just kind of just repeating that same line over and over until like it gets, to the whole CIA thing.
Yep.
Oh, and also one of the contestants happened to be a fucking like another working for the Russians or some shit.
Mm-hmm.
But he was totally like this beta male character type of.
Oh God.
Well, no type. It's that type of stereotype. That's not stereotype. Archetype. That type that. Total wimpy ass dude, and it really played on you because he was just bugging the hell out of the main character, and it turns out he's a fucking spy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wouldn't a spy's job to be less conspicuous? Just it's details like that, I guess.
Sure.
So hopefully that was enough for the listener to really grasp onto.
Yeah, go ahead, slap a number, and I'll go on to mine. 7.
Nothing wrong with it. No, they're nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
No, just no. Get rid of that statement. That's bold.
Nothing overly offensively
nothing wrong
bad.
with its existence.
Yeah.
Nothing offensive, I guess. I need a rewatch to see a bigger issue with it. I didn't find it very impactful, meaningful, or lots of substance or things to take away from it.
No, I just found it competent.
Quality-wise,
competent.
Decent. It's decent, mediocre, but overall positive to watch. 6 out of 10.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. My number 7. Okay. Not very controversial, but controversial on this couch.
Steve is bad in Smash.
Human Nature.
I'm kidding. That's the first thing I thought of.
I put it down here. I'm a normie. Doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it. In fact, I really love this movie, and we're already into territory where I really like all these movies. Okay, so going forward, Human Nature, or I'm Thinking of Fucking Things, as titled by a letterboxed commenter. I've also only seen this movie once. It's directed by Michel Gondry, who their only other time they teamed up was for Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, believe it or not. But you probably, if you're like me, you can believe that, because I think that this movie fits perfectly into the Kaufman canon. Kaufman canon. Unlike the Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, this one makes sense to me when you put it next to Being John Malkovich or Adaptation, or, you know, just what he was doing at that point in his career.
The Kaufman canon. Try to load yourself in and shoot to these top 6 movies and try not to get depressed. That's the challenge.
Yeah, my top 6. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still, personally, I don't find this to be his funniest movie, but I think like it's probably his second funniest movie for me, as far as like my sense of humor. But it definitely exceeded expectations, and I think everybody should check it out because no one talks about this movie. And it's most commonly rated a 6 out of 10 on Letterboxd, a 3 out of 5. And I think that's I don't know. I don't know. Maybe people really wanted something that was going to make them all depressed when they went into this. Believe it or not, that's not what draws me to Kaufman, even though like those ones are obviously going to hit pretty hard when they hit. Its themes are executed in a very over the top manner that never takes itself seriously in the slightest, which is different because his movies are generally over the top. But they usually have a level of, we're trying to say something here. And this is trying to say something, but it's like its delivery, its execution is just like to throw it in your face, like kind of on the level of Being John Malkovich, except like nothing that's going to bum you out when you think about it. It's just like about fucking. And about like the idea of being like a wild animal and then taking that and turning into civilizing somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is comically overstated. I'm glad this exists to just juxtapose every following Kaufman film on my list, and just that he made after this. So yeah, that's my little review of that. I landed at a 7 out of 10 for this movie, which isn't even that much higher than the 6 I was just confused about. But that is the difference for me. Like 7 means for me that I like enjoyed it and thought it was really good, and a 6 is like I thought it was good. I probably don't feel the need to go back.
Gotcha.
Cool. Wrapped it up and gave some of my little commentary on that. So your numbers.
I feel like my ratings are also a little bit more easier to categorize.
Yeah.
They're all based on like, subjective shit, really.
Sure.
Yeah.
Your number 6.
All right, number 6. We'll definitely talk more about Human Nature obviously later.
Yep.
But my number 6, gonna have to do it to you, Anomalisa.
Okay. Hey, wait. Let's talk together. That's my number 6 is Anomalisa. But you can go for it.
Oh wait, didn't you just say number 6? That was Human Nature your number 7.
That was my number 7.
Oh, I thought it was your 6.
Yeah,
really
so
that low.
So what I was saying is, as we go on this list, if we have something that's in the same spot, then I'm just gonna put the timestamp as like both of our number 6.
So we have a match.
We do.
Anomalisa.
I guess you didn't expect it, but yeah, when you put this compared to everything else from here on out, this hits me the least.
Right.
So go for it.
Okay. I keep forgetting that you're really like all about the emotional impact of something, and instead I keep thinking like, oh, he likes pretentious shit. He'll like Anomalisa. I'm kidding, or at least I'm over exaggerating. It's a joke. Anyways, Anomalisa. Well, it's unique.
Yeah,
that's vague. Let's see. The animation style, something like you have never seen in any other movie, likely. It's unclear whether or not they're clay. They're like in the style of claymation, yet their material is clearly not. I mean, it looks as though, because like the texture is changing.
Unless it is, we don't know.
Yet there's like so much detail, and they do have this line like in the middle of their face that is like another module. I thought that was just like a separation, so that way they don't fuck with the rest of the characters' heads. But if they can take it off in the movie, so it's just like, oh, so it's really unclear what the fuck these things are made of. But it looks like real life, but it's kind of it's all, since it's animation or animated style, stop motion type of thing. It's a lot lower of a frame rate too.
Yeah.
So it really gives for a unique viewing experience. It's like a surrealistic type of way of conveying the world.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, all it is, the whole movie, the whole fucking plot, all of it is just one dude's night in a hotel, and just showing how unhappy he is in his life. That said, even I think it's done like really well in terms of quality. I find like a lot of things, that's hard to say negative about it, or any flaws with it, other than like perhaps it's too much like real life and can be boring to watch.
Sure.
Or a little overly depressing, hard to get any value from certain things. Kind of like not life. God damn it! Kind of like Night in the Woods.
You're right.
I almost said Life in the Woods. Where a large part of the enjoyment out of that is whether or not you're able to connect with the characters, and if people aren't, then they will usually say outlandish things like the whole game is bad if they weren't able to relate with the characters. Likewise, if you're not interested in this guy's life about his divorce and his unstable love life and how unhappy he is, or just in general all his human flaws, you're not going to really find much enjoyment out of this movie.
Right.
Which is a large thing about it. It is so based and meant to be more realistic in life. Or compared to life, so it hardly really has any motifs that it that it really demonstrates. We don't get any closure on or any explanation at all with his ex-wife that he calls and like tries to meet up, and clearly that goes awful because there's still a lot of emotional baggage. We get no explanation, no backstory on that. There's no epilogue with his night with Lisa. None of that. Much like life, and it really ends as soon as he gets back home, and it shows a snippet of what his home is like.
Yeah.
And that's more summary. But
to clear it up, though, I do think that is I don't think it's his ex-wife. Just so if anyone ever found this, they weren't like, these don't even know what, they didn't watch it.
Right. It could not be his ex-wife, but look, they're clearly in a relationship, girlfriend, wife. I don't even know if it's fully explained or like outright mentioned, but that just. If it is, then just shows my knowledge on this. I've only seen it once. But it is only an hour and a half.
Yeah, it's surprisingly his most straightforward movie because it's like they went claymate and then it's or whatever it is, and then it's a straightforward movie. Like nothing too out there. A dream.
It's a straight story.
Yeah. Yeah. It is.
Yeah. It is kind of like dreamlike in a way. In a way, but not. No, I mean extremely so.
Yeah, I meant he has the dream at that one point, and that's like the most out there thing.
Oh yeah, or
his face coming apart.
Yeah, hallucinations more like.
Yeah,
or just kind of like I mean, it's more meant to convey that he's not mentally there and like what he's. It's more of a visual way of showing what he's feeling emotionally, which is a nice touch. It reminds you that hey, this is an art form that you're looking at. You know, as opposed to just potentially a more interesting scripted version of just some person's night.
Right.
But yeah. Would you like to talk about it?
Yeah, let me go. Because I really do like this movie, which says something, which means like all these movies I think are really great from here on out. These top 6. And really even Human Nature. But what do I have? So I've seen it twice now. I'll just go through my notes then, because I wrote a little bit more on these next couple. Lot to love here. Directed by Kaufman himself, his second time directing, though it was written in 2004, I believe, and it wasn't made until like 10 or 11 years later. He co-directed it with Duke Johnson because, for obvious reasons, he didn't really know how to do a project like this. Is my understanding on his own. What did I have? Incredibly unique movie. It's animated / claymated, whatever. Its style is very much its own. It's not concerned with being stimulating at all. Many extended takes, for example, like the long car scene at the beginning. A lot of times the camera will follow the main character for a long time, and you don't even like realize it, and it'll follow him through doors and hallways and shit, and it's just like, I think YMS mentioned that in his review of it too, where it just like legitimizes how the world is like a real world. It feels real because the camera's following through all these, the whole hotel and whatever.
The different shots. It
like subconsciously makes it feel more like a legitimate place, because it does feel really real for being a movie.
Similar with its with the awkward sets of dialogue.
Yeah.
And between different characters, none that are in any way forced or contrived. They feel just as real as like any other conversation that could happen. There's lots of miscommunication, frustration as well.
Yeah. Kaufman staple.
And a lot of it, like mainly with the other workers, are meant to reflect like the main character's sort of view on them, namely in the inconvenience to him.
Yep.
Or just a byproduct. He doesn't see them as people, so they're going to have naturally stilted dialogue, which is a pretty great, unique choice.
A lot of those in here. Well, at least a few that are pretty strong. So I'll keep going. The plot is mostly straightforward, with just a few oddities added for some interpretation, such as like the dream sequence and the shit that goes on with his face and all that. Cool concept of having everyone talk with the same voice.
I was going to mention that as well.
Yeah, until he finds Lisa.
Which I love that choice, by the way.
It's pretty obvious. Like I don't care that's not subtle. That's on the nose. Whatever. It's like I like it.
No, because even the kid has a grown man type of voice.
Yeah, I love it.
He's just like, no, Dad, this is fucking stupid.
Yeah, I love it.
And it's an interesting voice too, because it's kind of unisex in a way. It's like, I mean, a woman. It's not like a woman can't sound like that.
Yeah,
probably be less attractive, but like, it's not like they can't sound like that.
Yeah.
So I just found it comedic more than like, more than I had issue with it being on the nose. It's a very clear like choice,
Yeah, and it is played for comedy, but it's also played to drive home the main message. A little issue. I already went over this with you a little bit. It's a personal issue. I didn't feel like he needed to have a wife and kids and cheat, etc. I see the intention to drive home the point that he's still lonely and fulfilled, even though he has a family. But I already found his character to be selfish and shallow, yet relatably lonely and unfulfilled, like before you add that aspect to it. So like, he felt human to me already. Like, he felt relatable. To me, that actually, like, personally, that gives points against me resonating with it, which doesn't really affect the score of how well I think the movie was done, but it definitely affects personal points.
Well, do you think that's a fault of the movie, or just because of your general distaste for cheating and things like that?
No, I don't think it's a fault of the movie. I don't think it was a necessary piece. As I said, like, I already felt what they wanted me to feel for this character without him having to cheat on, like, or without having to have a family that he's like putting at stake here. But I get why it's there.
I feel as though without the family, like, it would be it would kind of step on kind of the theme around him as a character, because then all of a sudden his interaction with Lisa and the girls is more, it's much more optimistic. It's just like, oh, he's gonna find happiness, and then it just kind of falls flat only at the fault of himself, as opposed to like, we as the audience think you don't have to do this, like, you do have a wife, you can talk with them, and if you're unhappy or whatever, there are like, I feel definitely like his character is meant to reflect on the audience and have us think, oh, he can, like, do these things in order to like get out of the situation, or at least feel a little bit better, because his flaws are not only like apparent, but they're really like shoved in your face. They're it's very forward about that, and not really sure if I think that's really a good choice or not. I feel like it can come off as forced in certain ways.
To me, the way he sees people is already enough of a flaw with him.
Right, but it's done so subtly too. I mean, it's you said it's on the nose with like every character having the same voice, but like it's more
not
like
to its detriment. That's what something I love about it.
That's definitely it's a thematic element, you know, of him just thinking that everyone is the same, nobody is unique and all that, as opposed to him, you know, having a conscious thought narration play over everything.
Yeah.
And that would be, you know, the good choice or bad choice.
Yeah. And it's like a really cool just auditory thing to have that one girl with the different voice.
Yeah, like you hear it, you hear the difference in it. And
but,
he even says it.
But I mean, the way yeah, I just remember there's a whole scene in this movie.
Obviously, he doesn't have the same voice as everyone else either.
Yeah. With the girl just singing.
And you might also think like, oh, it sounds fucking boring. Everyone has the same voice, but they all have like unique deliveries too. They're all like feel like, you know, different, unique people.
Yeah.
They just, you know, have the same vocal quality. Anyway,
I think it's technically really well done. But yeah, just that choice. For me, I would have felt for him either way. Because I was kind of feeling that way for him before. It's like, oh, he's got a wife and kids. For you, like maybe that choice worked. And
I feel like
the thing with these things.
it didn't. It's not like it worked either way to affect me. But I feel as though if they didn't have him cheat on his family, it would be a drastic change in the in the overall feel and message and theme of the movie.
It would, but I would
to its detriment. To be clear, for
you, yeah, and I would still feel his unfulfillment and his loneliness was just like not connecting with people as it is. And then like him finding someone and then being like, I don't want her either. Like, I think that's pretty universally relatable. For anyone who struggles with finding connections and love and whatever. So the fact, that he's already got a family doesn't resonate with me, but I could see how it adds something to the movie and how it might resonate with other people. Because a lot of people feel this way and they have a wife and kids. And I hope Kaufman doesn't. I hope he's all right. But
well, like I believe like, you know, the central message is that like people are going to find a way to be unhappy no matter what.
Yep. No, yeah, absolutely.
And that's, yeah, as pretentious as it's going to fucking sound, that's something I figured out when I was much younger.
Yep. No, it's true.
And it's just a human thing, you know? But that's a whole other topic. Again, we're not going to tangent off to that. We've all been talking about this movie for quite a while in comparison.
We'll go on. So, because of certain choices, it doesn't resonate with me as much as some others do from Kaufman, but it's still really good, and I would recommend it. So, yeah, I'm good to give it a rating. By the way, we didn't even touch on that. It is probably controversial to have this low, but I would be willing to say any of these six that I have next are these six that I have are going to be controversial to put in any order. You already blew the top off that with John Malkovich at 8, so it's okay. I
started you in.
Yeah,
I got you in.
I should be safe.
Not to worry about it.
Okay,
I don't
cool.
give a shit about being controversial. I care about being right.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Numbers. I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. I think it's a strong 7. Not that I say strong or light, but 7.
I'm also going to say that last sentence, for legal reasons, was a joke. It was satire. It's okay. Yeah. I can be an asshole if it's satire.
So,
anyways.
Yeah, this and Human Nature are both a 7 for me. I prefer this slightly, I guess, because it says something more to me, but I still enjoy Human Nature a lot.
2 out of 10, uncomfortable sex scene.
Nice.
Because they're made of clay, and you get to see his old floppy penis.
No, I'm actually curious. Yeah, I don't know your number rating for this, but I guess you've changed them around.
No,
anyway.
I was gonna say also the next day. This is a movie that really stuck with me, but like
good
in a not a good way, like a virus type of way.
Still good.
No, not good. Fuck off. But your viruses are good in the middle of COVID. Yeah, good luck getting flack with that, mister.
Yeah,
he's got a dumbass smile on his face. In case you can't hear it.
You can't.
Let's see.
You can hear. That was a reference to the movie. He turns around. He's like, "You can tell when I'm smiling when I talk. See? Try it."
Yeah, I mean that's like, and that also is a common thing to like that's said in customer service, but it's like it's really not.
Oh yeah, and
you really fucking can't just be okay.
Not that we went into any of these really a lot, but his whole thing being a customer service expert is like, of course it's thematic. The way he uses like what people do for a living in his movies are always really well done.
It's clearly meant for comedic irony, you know. But quick tangent, people say that shit because normally when people smile, the inflection in their voice changes. You can sound however the fuck you want if you pay attention to how you're saying the thing that you're saying.
Yeah.
I can sound mad, but I can be smiling or be completely fine, or the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, yeah, for what I took away in terms of its message or theme, if you will, is that, and it's going to sound really fucking obvious, is that different people mean different things to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, I think the main character is just going to think, oh, Lisa, that was a nice night, but you know, I really fucked that up. And Lisa, for her, it's like it's almost like that that night was a life changer, you know, that it gave her new motivation for her to pursue other things. And she ultimately comes out hopeful out of it, even though the main character is relatively unchanged. But his impact is what affected her greatly. And I was just like, oh, so like even if he's, you know, hopeless and miserable and a piece of shit, arguably, that people can still find value in you and all that, and have positive experiences and all that jazz.
Cool.
Even with or without.
Are you
sex.
gonna have a positive silver lining to every depressing Kaufman movie?
I try to.
Okay, cool.
That is how I'm still alive, frankly.
Okay, good.
Let's see. The robotic score, I believe, would be a 9 or a 10.
Okay.
But my score, I'm selling with a 7.
Cool. We're both.
I don't really think I'm going to be rewatching this.
Yeah, that's fair. I probably won't watch it again unless I'm showing someone.
Felt a little uncomfortable.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think you're supposed to.
Oh, yeah. I know. I just... I'm not saying that's a fault at all. I'm just like, that's how I felt.
For sure. All right. Awesome. Into the top 5s then. We agreed on that one, so cool. You're number 5, buddy.
That might be one of the longest we talk about a movie. Hopefully.
Yeah, go for it. Oh, I think if it aligns... I think if one of them lines up again for us, it will go like that, because basically we just both talked about it for X amount of minutes.
You're
number 5.
Number 5. Adaptation.
Wow, okay.
Adaptation.
Wow.
Yeah, see, here's where the line starts for me, because I really love this movie.
Yeah.
Though, oh man, 2 Nick Cages.
Oof.
Man, 2 Nick Cages for the price of 1. What can go wrong with that? Honestly, his performance in this marginally better than
anything else he's
than
been.
Wild at Heart.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's hilarious in Wild at Heart, but like he's even more so here because he works off of himself.
Yes.
And like early on, he talks that like, okay, there's 2 Nick Cages because you know, the main character, which is Kaufman himself, he self-inserted himself in this movie, and he has a fictional brother in this, but it's the same person. You know, it's Nick Cage again, who is also aspiring to be a screenwriter, and all the early scenes with him are just hilarious because, you know, Kaufman's character has such a standard for writing that he holds himself to, and he's seeing his brother make a lot of the rookie amateur mistakes, and instead of helping him, he just kind of scoffs at him.
Well, and he's successful. That's what I love too.
He turns out
it just pisses him off.
Oh yeah, he turns out to be successful and pisses him off. Yeah, like it's pretty trite, honestly. But the fact it plays with the narrative, you know, and that like, yeah, nothing that Kaufman can do is really gonna lift himself out of it unless he lifts himself out of this hole that he's in and all that. But I was saying the scenes with them are particularly funny because, first of all, the younger brother is lying on the floor because of his back pain, which is just a funny image. And then he just kind of like slides over to his room, still on the floor, and Kaufman just immediately like, you know, shoots down any ideas he has as being dumb or idiotic without much construction with it, and he's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. And like, it shows that, and like, oh man, it's also natural dialogue. Characters are interrupting each other all the time. But I found it so I couldn't predict it, and obviously I'm gonna spoil the moment here. It's just so unpredictable, and it was just so fucking funny because he was talking about why it's so terrible, and then it cuts to the other Nick Cage for like half a second, just going, "Oh, okay," and then right back to Kaufman, just like a little slice in there. I was just like, "Oh man." It was like a surgeon, but comedy, and it just poked me right in my funny bone.
Okay.
I thought that was like such perfect comedic timing. But yeah, lots to love with this movie, really. And yes, it is referential, and that like it is pretty pretentious to insert yourself in the movie that you're writing.
Yeah.
Like literally yourself. You know, it's isn't there a term for that? Isn't that a Mary Sue? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I think maybe that might. I don't know. I feel like I'm using that wrong. I mean, I heard it recently, so.
He also he's working on, since I didn't write
It's
it.
about flowers.
Since I didn't write it in my notes on this movie, there's also like a really pretty cool, unique connection to being John Malkovich in this that I enjoy.
You get to watch Nick Cage jerk off in his bed.
Yeah, you do.
It's really just, God, this movie's a lot of self-loathing. You know, take from that as you will. Yeah, you can be genuine,
play it
but
for
it
comedy,
can be kind of difficult to watch. It is played it for comedy, so it gets a pass. I'm fine with it. Just because I found the comedy to be mostly effective. That it was also parallel, and that it was parallel to the narrative. Let's see. I feel as though the latter half of the movie is kind of a fucking mess. And I get that's done deliberately because he takes the writing course that his brother did that made him successful with all these all these like rule sets, I guess, which the main character has a huge problem with.
Blow him away in the third act.
Yeah, and then so he sees value in what the teacher is saying, so he takes all of his advice, and yeah. Man, I'm sounding like a babbling idiot. Which takes place over the final act, which is a huge contrast to the rest of the movie. It's done deliberately, but I didn't find it to be as effective. Just found it to be like, oh, of course, like, the author of the book is a druggie that's like trying to hide a secret, and they're gonna murder him because that's the logical conclusion for this.
Right.
And that's really my only issue. Like, I get it's done on purpose, but it's just not, a logical order of events. Though I did enjoy the scene of him in the swamp with his brother having that little heart-to-heart moment. But since that did happen, it was pretty telling and predictable that he was going to die immediately in the next scene, which he does. I really enjoyed the final shot of the flowers in the middle of downtown LA. At least what looked like downtown. It could be, anywhere else, but it looked like LA.
Over Happy Together.
Yeah. Which is what the brother was trying to sing to Kaufman and try to cheer him up.
I do. I think about it day and night, and it's alright. I love it.
In a way, also personally, I can see the parallel to me and you with both of the main characters. You're Kaufman great. And I'm the other guy.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have thought you meant the other way.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean,
because you've been throwing shade.
I do have standards, and I throw shade, but I don't know which one out of us is more miserable. Yeah, you're right. It's me.
I don't know. Yeah, that's pretty hard to figure out.
All right. Well, that's pretty much all I have to say about this movie.
Cool. Rating? I guess. I think you threw a score on this on Letterboxd, but I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't, because this is something that you really do have to sit and think about. I think I'm giving this a light 8 out of 10.
Okay.
It's a light 8.
Yeah, your Letterboxd was a 9, so I think it was a light 9.
I think that's maybe the more robotic kind of answer with it. It's like 9. It's a 9.
Oh, with the more robotic?
Yeah. Or where you're just kind of judging on its quality.
Right. Okay, cool.
Weird that I can say that about a Nick Cage movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie, though.
Get some people riled up, but hey, Watch the damn movie.
We're already in the 8 territory at your number 5, so that's something to know. Everyone, these are good movies. Check them out if you haven't. I don't know why you're listening to this. All right, whatever. My number 5 then. This is where I put Being John Malkovich. You probably forgot, like, oh yeah, that exists. 3 viewings now. I've seen this as much as I've seen Adaptation, actually. And my thoughts on Being John Malkovich. Okay. Malkovich. 8 out of 10. Enough said. Moving on.
Ha ha.
Actually,
Very
though.
funny.
Actually, though.
Scene from movie. Ha ha. Funny.
It's directed by Spike Jonze. It's Kaufman's first project, really. Pretty cool. Pretty fucking ambitious. And I'm surprised that with this movie, he got to make everything that he made subsequently, because I'm really surprised this movie's a big hit. Like, I really am. For reasons like that, you didn't like it. I would expect a lot more people to feel like you. But I'll go in on what I wrote about it. This film uses absurdity to the extreme to depict Kaufman's overly cynical view of the human condition. Everybody acts only out of self-interest. This isn't the only film where Kaufman tackles this concept, nor his most effective, in my opinion. But the fact that you hate it, you, Skylar, speaks to my point on that, I think. This film
I don't hate it, though.
It isn't for everyone, and if it does resonate with you, it's still not a pill that you're like that happy to swallow. It plays this strong cynicism for comedy and discomfort, which I think it achieves greatly. Its humor is reminiscent to me of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, or even Seinfeld to a degree. Not as Seinfeld doesn't quite go that miserable with its view of humanity, but still like the same, like no hugging, no learning. That was their motto. And the show, it's about nothing. It's just kind of nihilistic, I guess. Yeah, there are layers to it to uncover when it comes to the themes of manipulation and vanity as well. The protagonist being a puppeteer is used to play with a lot of these concepts. Again, I think when someone in Kaufman's stories has a job, it's like ironic or in some way reflective of their life, which I usually appreciate. He does it pretty well, I think. I was a bit high on this one when we watched it last, but after sitting with it and like just thinking about it with all the other movies and what scores I was giving them, I had to do some adjustments here and there. I've decided to keep it at an 8 out of 10. Cool. I think my notes are helping me be concise with my sections, so I'm happy about that.
Yeah, you're progressively being more concise and thoughtful with your notes.
Cool. Let's get on to your number 4 then. Do we agree on number 4? Probably not.
I don't even remember what I fucking put. I'm trying to remember. No, we do not. Because for my number 4, I have Human Nature.
Okay.
So much higher on the list.
Okay.
So where the fuck do I
one.
begin with this? Man, see, I find this to be Kaufman's funniest movie.
Yeah, I think it's the second funniest.
I think Adaptation is the second funniest.
We're just flipped on those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Similar but different sense of humor.
I found this one to be more consistently funny, like throughout the movie, whereas Adaptation had mainly funny points in like a pretty overly grim kind of setting and despair character.
This is a more straight comedy.
Yeah. This is definitely more direct. And it's pretty. The fuck do I say? Raunchy, in a sense of humor, but not like distasteful in like the Family Guy sense.
Right.
Let's see. Yeah, as he said, as James said earlier, yeah, I can definitely see the parallel with thinking of fucking things, because it's very sex central about it. But again, like, you really, it's almost like to name a movie Human Nature, and for the movie to be like literally about that is like pretty fucking pretentious as it is. But it's it's what the motif is, essentially, is that we're all just concerned with fucking things.
Yeah.
And that is more of a reality to me than everybody's a piece of shit that wants to be John Malkovich.
Well, because scientifically that's our purpose.
Yeah.
So it just
and
takes that. And
I
fronts of
also much preferred the way it told its story
Mhm.
in like the 3 segments of the characters, pretty much after where they were. It's pretty. There's no going to be a real way of saying this without, not feeling satisfied. But I felt it to be not inorganic, but like artificial, an artificial way of like telling the story.
Mhm.
But with one of the main characters, what was his fucking name?
I don't know.
The guy that was feral but was in the courtroom.
Right, I forgot names from most of these movies, honestly.
I'll call him Puppy. So Puppy was in the courtroom, and he's all well dressed, but he's like his hair and beard are fucking wild, and he's explaining like quite effectively like how he was raised by apes, and that all humans are just apes, and goes into a lot of philosophy, but makes probably the best non-existent court case to be had, where when that character is self-representing, genuinely,
right.
But that basically gets motion to go through the whole story. Yeah, I guess I'll say the synopsis, but point is I found it to be pretty effective with all the things that it's trying to get across, and
Right.
I found virtually no flaw with.
And quite comedic, worked for
yeah,
you.
Though I do find it interesting that Gabriella, is that her name?
I can't.
I'm pretty certain that's her name. The French girl, the assistant. No, it might not be Gabriella.
If I was going to remember a name, it wouldn't be for one of these.
I can literally just look on the letterbox. Man, we're fucking prepared for this. But I did find it interesting that that her accent went away for a scene and was never referenced again. It's like it's
probably a performance issue then, if we're honest.
No,
but I don't remember.
It wasn't a performance issue. It was like she was like deliberately leading a double life. Like she was.
Okay, yeah.
She was sitting around, lounging, talking with someone on her phone, talking. I think almost in a Jersey accent. And as soon as the main character, the Rivers dude, shows up, and then she's like, "Who is it?" And then it's like, "Oh, it's Steve," and she's like, "Oh, darling,"
Oh,
She
okay,
immediately goes back, and then like transforms her whole apartment, which was just that's a marvel.
I forget. I forgot what you were referring to.
Yeah, her name is Gabrielle. Miranda Otto. Yeah, I found everyone's performance to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the character I was referring to, his name is Puff. I should have remembered that. And I love how he's like, yes, my name is Puff. So well spoken, has like such etiquette. The main character is a pushover because he's trying to teach etiquette and table manners to mice. And it just tackles a lot of things, but it's so effective because it's all about like how
it's a dude from Jacob's Ladder.
There's the motif where we're all just putting on a facade to make ourselves most presentable for mating, essentially, which Gabrielle like throws out like her whole. Is it Gabrielle? No, it's the wife. It's the other one. Lila. Yeah, Lila, the wife. It's like she throws out everything that she held valuable to stay with the main character, Nathan. Dr. Nathan.
Jacob's Ladder guy.
Yeah, Tim Robbins.
Tim Robbins.
Whose performance was really great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as it
there is that cool aspect of this with heaven or whatever.
As
like
it turned,
the white room and shit.
Oh yeah, I gathered that was happening already. Like, and because you see, there's a bullet wound on his head, so it's like, okay, clearly he's dead. How do we get here? But yeah, it was presented in a very interesting way, albeit a little grim as well, because he's just in a white room and he's just like, well, now what do I do? I want to live.
Yeah, he went through like the door on the side and he popped through the other side.
Yeah, it seems as though like
very Michel Gondry.
It seems as though even in death, he is still a victim to his human flaws.
Yeah,
I was kind of wondering where it was going with that. So it's more of a visual choice, and a more visual rhetoric of like, oh yeah, he's dead, as opposed to like a concept that it really goes with.
Right.
Which admittedly would be a little more than what's in the description of the movie to be, going in depth on.
Right.
So I can give that a pass.
Right.
That it's left more ambiguous. Yeah, it turns out Lila is born feral and is like constantly growing hair out of her body, and Dr. Nathan finds that repulsive and everything. It's just really like huge love triangle rhombus situation, which I didn't find to be awkward or like uncomfortable in any way really to watch. I mean, you kind of know what's going to be happening. Like, it's all about fucking. Of course, they're all going to be fucking each other.
And Patricia Arquette spends a lot of time naked in this movie.
Right. But most of the time in like a fursuit.
Yeah.
Or that, yeah.
Just like she did in Lost Highway.
I did find it like fucking confusing that Puff and Gabriella ended up together. I just found that to be just more like a random choice if there were any things I would qualify as a flaw in the movie.
This movie said fuck in a few different places.
Yeah,
I
did find it like really hilarious that Puff spent all this time in the courtroom, and then at the end of the movie he's taking off his clothes and it's like I'm gonna live out in the wilderness. He even says that he can't go live with his mom, like his real mom, because he never knew her. And he's like, no, I'm gonna live with the apes. And then he goes down there. All the press fuck off immediately after, and then, like a few moments later, he runs up to a car that's there to pick him up.
Yeah,
he's like, "Fuck that!" I don't know. I just find it, frankly, masterful in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
like how also the press like only cared about the sensationalism of his story and didn't really care about him as a person, which is exactly what the press in capitalist America is all about, and all that shit. Had to get my politics in there, because that's what I'm all about.
Right.
I'm wondering if there's anything noteworthy to talk about this movie other than just gushing or rambling on.
No, well,
I think that's it. You've already talked about it too.
I'm glad you're gushing by your number 4. We're gonna have a big top 3.
Yeah,
big important stuff.
There's a lot to talk about. This movie, I don't need to rewatch. Like, I feel as though discuss at length about things. At least our standard way of discussing at length.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think we're ready to move on.
Go for it. A number?
I'm giving this movie a 10 out of 10.
Really?
Yeah, it's still a 10.
Is there going to be some dissonance here, or are your top 4 all 10s?
Yeah, they're all 10s.
We'll see.
Yeah, they're all 10s.
Okay. Wow.
I'm just going to be frank with it.
I guess you have more 10s than me? Wow. Okay. Maybe I'm just not giving enough credit. I don't know. My number.
This is where like the robotic rating lines up with my own personal rating as well.
Okay, cool. Number 4 for me. I'm thinking of ending things.
Okay.
2 viewings now. This is his newest film, 2020, just a few months ago.
It came out on my birthday.
Yes, your birthday this year, September 4th. I'll just go through my notes. Kaufman's horror film, based on a book, apparently much more ambiguous than the book. And I watched some video of someone going over that and saying like that's to the movie's detriment. And I don't know about that. I think there are probably pretty clear choices.
The movie isn't more in depth than the book?
The movie is more ambiguous.
Oh, ambiguous.
It doesn't answer things as much. It leaves you like with questions. And I don't think that's a necessary detriment. I think that's purposeful.
They would have to explain why,
Yeah, well, they did, but we're not going to talk about that video.
Right. Okay, for sure. Okay, they have to explain why and have it not be, just a stupid bullshit argument, because The Shining answers a lot of questions more than the movie, but I'd say the movie's much, much better than the book.
Right.
For multiple reasons.
Sure. So I haven't read the book, but I'm just going to say, like, I don't think that's to the movie's detriment. If anything, they can stand on their own.
I'm not saying that, but I'm not trying to say, like, oh, because of this one example, that's true for all of it. I'm just saying, like, that by itself is not a reason for that to be a fault of the movie.
Right.
Compared to the book,
Right.
That's a huge discussion. But anyways.
Here we go.
On.
This one is directed by Kaufman himself. Just a few months old. Everything about it is so bleak and claustrophobic. They even though it's like this modern Netflix movie, they've purposely used the 16:9, I think is what the ratio is. I could be wrong, but so like even the aspect ratio is more claustrophobic than it needs to be, like as a choice. It's about unfulfillment, dark and suicidal thoughts, self-image, etc. like Anomalisa, there are plenty of extended scenes. Again, the scenes in the car they last quite long. I remember the first time I watched this movie, they kind of sit there in the car for 10 minutes and they're just talking. I was honestly ready for that to be the whole movie. I was honestly thinking, this is going to be it. How are they going to make this like last? It wasn't the whole movie if you watch it, but I was ready for that. Don't know if you felt the same, but
how long they were going to make the car scene last?
Yeah, I was just like, is this going to be the movie?
I was prepared.
Yeah.
I was really prepared for it to be.
The dialogue's very engaging, in my opinion. So it would have worked.
I agree with that statement.
Yeah. Very uncomfortable. Very, very claustrophobic and disconcerting. Car scene. The way the two main characters interact never feels comfortable or warm in any way. I'm gonna harken back to this because unlike Midsummer, this to me feels like a relationship that has devolved into something extremely toxic. And as we discover later, this relationship isn't even real. So they took a fabricated relationship, and it felt more deep to me and more authentic than what they portrayed in Midsummer. I just got shit on Midsummer a little bit.
Well, in defense of Midsummer, it's way less interpersonal and more about like,
right.
The I don't want to say themes because it's such an overused thing, but you know what I mean, like things that it sets up and the kind of spectacle of them being in Sweden.
Yeah, right. I just wanted to give that little diss there. This film takes place in the mind of an old janitor working at a high school who has lost any sense of purpose and wants to end things. This is depicted a few different ways, including Jesse Plemons.
You could have just said and is thinking of ending things. You're so close.
In Jesse Plemons, who is Todd from Breaking Bad, we see that he's the same character as the old janitor guy. In a few different ways, including the his random knowledge of school plays and random high school students showing up throughout the movie, like at the ice cream stand and stuff. So like there are some pretty subtle hints to what's going on, and I think that's what people were talking about with like, oh, it doesn't say enough, you're just confused and it doesn't mean anything. It's like, well, it's ambiguous on purpose, but like it's all there.
For those saying that, I'm gonna call those claims to be very uninformed. There are many, many times where the movie is making that clear distinction of what's going on. If they missed that, then I'm sorry that you didn't get the full like picture of the movie. But
that's
like,
not the
there's
movie's
no
fault.
way you can claim that. That's just false.
Watch it more, try and understand it. Like, no one's really gonna fully like grasp everything the first time unless.
Oh yeah,
you're like a genius. Unless I don't know.
I mean, I was pretty close.
Yeah. You're pretty good. You're usually better than me on a first watch at taking everything in.
The thing is, I admitted that like every time I felt as though I knew what was going on in this movie, it took a sharp 90-degree turn.
Right.
But that's what made my first watch enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. This one feels the most David Lynch to me. I already told you that. I like the clues that the unnamed character, the unnamed female protagonist, which also I love that choice, just having her unnamed. Is pretty like big indicator like something's up. Like he calls her Lucy once, but that's not her name. It is Do
we know the guy's name?
Yeah, the guy Todd. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. How
silly of me.
We do get his name. I forgot what his name is. So
I'm not like challenging you. I was just like wondering, like, did they say it?
No, his name's Jake. Yeah, they say Jake quite a lot.
That's right.
And yeah, he is the janitor. That much is confirmed. So yeah, I like the clues that like she's unnamed, and that she's like clearly someone that he's made up upon further reflection, as she's idealized in all these different ways. The manifestation of her in his thoughts becomes sentient, like as the movie goes, and like even his sentient thought doesn't want to be with him. Like it's a new layer of internalized self-hatred and loneliness, and it's like really fucked up. And oh boy. Very powerful and relentless with its bleak outlook. So I mostly wrote about what the movie is and not like what worked for me and what didn't. It's just everything technically is on point for this. It's a very general, broad statement, but I think that's the statement I'm gonna make. Like, I think a lot of the more weird, out there, like the look of it, like this ice cream stand being out in the middle of this giant snowstorm, where the school is, the roads, like anything, the house being so remote, everything is depicted as if like it's not real, like as if it's just like what you remember when you have a memory, like you focus.
Oh yeah, like everything is super isolated.
Yeah, everything's just like you're focused on the things that you're focused on, and everything else just kind of falls into the backdrop or whatever. And that's like, this movie's presented in like a somewhat dreamlike state, and everything's really awkward all the time, really uncomfortable. Everything's really well done for what it tries to do. And I don't know. The thing, maybe it drags a little for me at some parts. I would say generally the pacing's really good, and the dialogue keeps me completely like into any
Immersed.
Immersed in any given point.
Invested.
But there are some scenes where maybe you're just like waiting for something to happen, and maybe that's the point. I think that is the point. But so I don't know. I guess this will take some more thought, but right now I have it marked as a 9 out of 10. It could be a 10.
As a complete non sequitur, I found it pretty funny when in the beginning when the girlfriend was like, "Oh, I didn't take you to be into musicals," and he's like, "Oh, I'm not really, but like I know this one."
Names
this
like
one,
10.
This one. He names more than 10. He names a whole bunch of them and is singing like word for word.
Yeah.
A musical that just happened to come up from Oklahoma. I just found that funny, and it reminded me of some shit that you would do.
Yeah, probably.
Like, oh yeah, I'm not really big on the Smiths, but like, you know, I heard all their albums. Just like, okay, okay, big shot. I don't know. That's an example.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like the fact that you've apparently got 4 10s makes me think, am I just like holding back because I'm being a jerk or what? Like, do I have problems? I don't know.
Don't think about that. Like, it was very tough for me to think like, to discern ratings from certain things.
Yeah, could this be a 10? It absolutely could be. I'm sitting it at a 9. Could very well be a 10.
That's fair.
Cool. So you're number 3.
My number 3.
Is it not this?
Hold on, I have to fucking find my notes. Sorry. I was on my phone while you were talking. Okay, my number 3. Feels almost criminal to have it this low, but Synecdoche, New York.
Okay. Wow. No, go for it.
Oh man. I don't even know if I should even talk about this movie. It's a 10. Like, we've established that everything past, human nature, my 3 and up, all 10s. Let's just move on. Because if any way I try to talk about this movie, it's really not gonna be sufficient enough in my eyes.
Yeah. Let me just ask you here. Do you want to wait until I list it and then we can just have a discussion?
Sure.
Okay. Because it's not my next movie, but it's not my number 1. Which, guys, that means it's my number 2. But we'll talk about it together.
It's number 2.
We'll talk about it when we get there.
Okay, we're putting it off to the side.
So I'll go over my 3 then quickly, because I do want to go more in depth on that one, as much as we can. I basically wrote the same thing you just said, though. Adaptation is my number 3. It managed to be above Thinking of Ending Things, but those two were the hardest one to place was I'm Thinking of Ending Things, to be clear. That one could have easily been my 3. Mm-hmm. These two would maybe switch out at some point. 3 viewings of Adaptation, directed by Spike Jonze, who did Being John Malkovich. I like the connection it has to Being John Malkovich. I already said. I think this is one of the coolest and most fun movies I've ever seen. Extremely meta, to you to a fault at the end there, but I love that. This is what happens.
Well, just in the context of the story, but yeah.
Right. This is what happens when Charlie Kaufman tries to adapt a book about flowers. And then some stuff you already said, like Nick Cage plays Kaufman and his fictional twin brother. For me, also, I agree, the strongest elements of this movie, for me, are the back and forth. between the two Nick Cages. But even when the story focuses more on the Orchid Thief, it feels necessary and purposely mundane to illustrate Kaufman's struggle with adapting it.
I also did enjoy the really realistic depiction of a writer.
Right.
It's one of the more miserable jobs I can imagine.
Right. Oh man, there's some really great self-deprecating stuff in here.
It's right up there with trying to perform magic.
Mm-hmm.
Being a clown.
I feel like you put a lot of my thoughts into words on it. Already, it is Kaufman's funniest film to me. Something about it resonates with me in that way. I guess more than Human Nature. For one reason or another, but they're both like up there. I think they're his two funniest. Yeah, the whole third act goes completely off the rails, which you already touched on. That's it. I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10.
Cool.
You're number 2, and then we'll talk about Synecdoche together.
Yeah, we'll talk about that together. That might take another 4 hours.
A little bit.
I feel like. Well, even then, I've only watched it once, so that should be telling as it is. All right, my number 2, then.
Yeah, I guess I know how this is gonna play out. Shit.
I have nothing to beat on except my leg, and you can't fucking hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Drum roll. I'll do a drum roll.
Yes. Eternal
Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. My number 2.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I predicted that because you said our number ones wouldn't line up. The list is spoiled at this point.
That was a spoiler, yeah.
But that does mean I'm really interested to hear you talk about your number 1.
Well,
so go ahead on this. We did do a podcast.
We already did a podcast. We're not really going to talk much in depth on it. Ultimately, my opinion of it is unchanged, except for my rating, which is from a 9 to a 10.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it. Found it fairly effective, though my interpretation is the same.
Okay, cool.
And this sucks because there was a little like piece of dialogue that was in one of the scenes that I hadn't noticed, and I found it really funny, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna notice that next time, and I don't remember what it was.
Okay. So, shit.
Ironic. It was something about him like, oh fuck, I need to see a doctor or some shit.
I don't know.
Yeah. Also, I completely missed him going the guy, but like the delivery is just so perfect.
It's so good.
It's so quick. It's just such a comedic time.
Right.
It's like, I think that guy, he's after you, sold your panties. He's like, what guy? The guy.
Yeah. What was it like after watching all the Kaufman stuff to watch this? I guess not different. It just feels like Kaufman movie now. Now you know that's a style.
No, I didn't. Well, yes, so the through line of like what his main character is going to be.
Yeah.
It's consistent, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I don't know why, but I felt very sad, but like also kind of a tell when he's taking a bath in the sink, where he's just like, the most secure feeling, and then it just.
Oh, that's great.
I was just like, I don't know if that's like on the nose or meant to be like sad or tragic. Just pointing it out, pointing out that it's there.
Yeah, I think it's funny. Personally.
Let's see. Oh yeah, I don't know. All these were just when he was a kid.
Yeah,
they were just so fucking funny. Just when she lifts up her dress and she's like, "See, look, my crotch is still here." And he's just like, "Ew."
Yeah. Did you? I
just paid more attention to Jim Carrey's performance,
which is great.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm certain that like he really wanted this part to show more his diversity. Because I thought, like, you know, probably the main criticism that Jim Carrey gets, if he ever gets any, is that he always has to play these like overly large and eccentric, flamboyant characters because how animated his acting is and just his body language. And I'm sure he took up this role to be like, you know what, I'm better than that. You know,
right?
I'm better than this. Obviously, he prefers to be much more animated and comedic, which like is telling in lots of his performance here.
Right.
And there are even like some parts too, like that are a little wild, like when it kind of starts going down the rabbit hole of his memories getting erased. And what is it? Clementine is doing something at the desk, but I was just watching him because he was on the bed and like tantruming and like jumping around like a fucking kid.
Mhm.
And you probably don't know what I'm talking about, but if you watch,
No, I think I know what you mean.
If you
It's
watch
when
it again,
she's got
yeah.
the pillow over his face, right?
No. It's really it's a really small like scene to include or to even mention, but I just found like what he was doing was like I was just like, man, he's just a lot wackier than I thought in the first time. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, what people remember this movie is just like heartbreaking and dreary and shit, and like it's a really funny movie.
I don't find this to be all that heartbreaking. I actually find it to be the opposite.
It's
Also,
yeah.
Kate Winslet's performance,
Mhm.
beautiful. Just
Mhm.
both are beautiful.
Right.
Though I mean, it's less realistic, you know.
Yeah.
Especially compared to Anomalisa or the rest of his roster. But yeah, I didn't find their delivery or how they spoke in any way to be a hindrance towards any scenes or anything. Yeah, again, no flaws here.
It's really
nothing wrong here.
Yeah, like
It's a great badass movie.
I feel like people just think it's a sad movie because like that sticks with you the first time. But
I still dislike Patrick, and I know it's the point, but man, could you make him a little less of a douchebag, please?
Fucking Elijah Wood.
Yeah.
Mr. Frodo.
That's Frodo.
Oh, you didn't think of that.
I know. I didn't know. I didn't.
God damn!
That.
I was just gonna ask what
Dude,
what it was like watching Lord of the Rings and then seeing him as this character.
I didn't even fucking notice Todd being Todd in Thinking of Ending Things.
Right.
So like, I'm not that good with it. Instead, I just kept seeing like, oh, dude, this dude's. I just couldn't help but think this dude's in Smash Mouth.
They're just so good, you only see their character. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Okay, cool. Then on to my number 2. Then you gave it a 10. 10 out of 10. Or did you have anything else?
No, it's a 10. Yeah.
Great. Okay. My number 2 is Synecdoche, New York. 2 or 3 viewings. I can't remember. I want to say 3. Let's try our best to tackle it together. I'll go off some of my notes here. This is actually Kaufman's directorial debut.
Wow.
After a string of movies directed by Michel Gondry or Spike Jonze or whoever else, George Clooney, this one was his debut.
I mean, it's impressive, but at the same time, it's like, how sad is that your debut is your peak?
It's his masterpiece. Yeah, even though this is at your 3. And even though this is at my 2, this is no mistake. This is his masterpiece, in my opinion.
Objectively speaking, like, this is his what's the other magnum opus?
Yeah,
this is magnum opus.
2008. Philip Seymour Hoffman, rest in peace. And like, what a thematic thing that Philip Seymour Hoffman tragically passed away too soon. He is fantastic in this movie. So, what do I have? It's impossible to sum up thoughts on this movie in just a few minutes.
I'm thinking of some words to attach to it.
Go, yeah, I'll read through this in the meantime.
Sure.
Or even an entire podcast. I don't think we could really do it justice.
No, we can. An entire podcast. It just would be at a length that you wouldn't be happy with.
Yeah. YMS has a great series on it that he's been working at for 6 years now, and he is going to finish it. It's unflinchingly honest, which is what it sets out to do. It's tragically authentic and captures the human condition in a much more profound way than something like being John Malkovich, if we're being honest. In my opinion, anyway. It's about self-interest, loneliness, and unfulfillment, but it's about so much more than that, too. And then I just wrote, for us to discuss.
Yeah, you I'm pretty sure you know some. I'll be bringing some things to talk about.
Yeah,
in your note writing, it's just like, all right, just let it go from there. Yeah.
Discuss.
If I were to briefly describe it, without any spoiler or synopsis, it would just be, it's beautiful, but extremely introspectively depressing. Depressing in the introspective sense.
Absolutely.
And uniquely terrifying.
Right. To me, this offers a little more hope than I'm thinking of ending things, but that movie's already been talked about and will be again. So, just something to throw out there, though. It offers
So-
like I watched Carson Runquist's video on I'm Thinking of Ending Things, and he pointed out like that in that movie, like compared to this movie, at least this offers like kind of that pillow of like, yeah, everything's fucking scary and blah blah blah, but we're all in this together. Like everyone is everyone is kind of what this movie goes for. What's his name? Caden is meant to represent anyone who's watching. It's what the Synecdoche is. It's a smaller part that you call to like represent something bigger.
Right, and I agree that's what Caden is, but I don't know if he's meant to, if he's meant to represent like the audience or the viewer.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know what degree I agree with that statement.
Sure.
Let's see. Honestly, watch this movie at your own risk.
Yeah,
because it can seriously change you and like really call into question your values in life. I think it would be, and this goes in what I said in the beginning of this podcast. It would, it would not only call into question what you value in life, but it would be next to impossible to watch this movie and then later the next day go on to feel as though what you're doing matters.
Oof.
If you don't feel that, I believe in a way you're subhuman.
Oof.
Or at least have it not affect you in one way, shape, or form the next day. I'm not saying like you specifically. I meant like just you, how you view yourself, like you, the second person. Like,
unless like me, you didn't.
Like next day, I was like, "What the fuck am I gonna do?" Like,
yeah. I want to say, unless like me, you didn't fucking understand what was happening the first time you watched it. I'm just stupid. So, I understood it as I watched it more and changed my outlook on it a lot. Go for it. I can't cut you off.
Oh no. It's meant to be more discussionary.
Yeah. I don't
about
know.
life and ambition and all that, and what comes along with it. But it kind of just blows up more into like this huge kind of event or like artistic statement, more or less to reflect on the slippery slope that can go through any overly ambitious or aspirational artist, where they quickly they're trying to take on too much, which can also be an allegory for the every man's like, day in life, where you take too many classes or work too much, or try to take on too many things at once, and how quickly like that can veer out of control and all that.
And it focuses on how he's never fulfilled also.
Yes, similar to Anomalisa. And that no matter what you do in life, you're always going to be unhappy. Not so. That's not true. I'm just saying that like that could be the message that you get from this movie.
Yeah, that could be what it's trying to say, whether or not you agree with that. But
that could be someone's takeaway. But then again, it's like anything could be anyone's takeaway from this movie.
Yeah, the point is that Kaufman said it on record, like he wants people to watch this and be able to come back and watch this at different points. And it's like the same movie all the time, but it means you take something different from it at different points in your life.
I missed a lot of the details until we watched YMS's series on it, which is
how much time is rapidly passing.
Where it shows how time is passing and how quickly. And I found that to be terrifying.
Yeah.
So I'm already feeling that.
Right.
Yeah, and that's a terrifying thing. I didn't really grasp what was going on the TV a lot of the time until it was pointed out, and then it was just obvious afterwards.
I'd recommend his series for sure.
I did notice, but didn't really particularly note that him and his wife in the beginning were total opposites in regards to how they view their future ambitions and their own health as well.
Yep. Or
the well-being of others. But even then, let's be real. I forgot his name. Caden isn't really terribly concerned with other people other than himself for the majority.
Right. No one is. Yeah, like, again, that's why I said it's like, it's kind of the same at points. It's about as YMS said in his thing too, like that resonated with me. It's just still kind of the themes of like John Malkovich or something at points. It's about self-interest and about unfulfillment and just like how people only care about you when they need you and blah blah blah. Like that's in here too. But I think it's handled in a much more profound way. And like it kind of again gives you that pillow of like everyone's kind of going through their own shit. Everyone's kind of dissatisfied in one way or another, and we're all in this together.
Right, but it is like incredibly nihilistic. But that's mainly because of the main character's flaws, and that's who he is.
Mm-hmm.
Overly depressive and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it just in the later half of the movie, it can come across as that like he's kind of just forcing that upon other people, especially with this whole theater project.
Yeah, so much great detail there too. He's like writing everything down as it happens.
I didn't really find that to be as impactful, really.
Oh, I love that.
Just get the what is it? Sensationalist kind of like. It's just trying to get the sensationalism like kind of there in the forefront.
For me, it shows how much he's committed to being authentic and how much he's trying to capture exactly like what life is, and it's just his level of commitment to doing that. It's kind of
right
exemplified right there.
I think it's agreeable that he only focused on the negative aspects of life, though.
Yeah, and he he builds like this whole mini New York City in this place. Like it's not even a theater project anymore. It's just like things happening in I can't think of the word, but everything's happening at once. He like literally starts working as a maid to represent Ellen, like in his own project. He's not even like really the director,
which is a person that we're unsure even exists.
Yeah,
we have yet to like see her and have like physical evidence of her existence.
I thought Adaptation was like the most meta thing, but this movie's like, fuck that. There's nothing this movie leaves to. It gets so wrapped up in itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's impossible to like go through it with a fine-tooth comb again, like in a small segment on this podcast. So it could have been something to talk about as a full recommendation, but honestly, just there were so many Kaufman movies we could have discussed that I did this instead. And I'm glad I did. I don't know if you are, but I'm glad I did. So if you want to say anything else.
I'm just kind of thinking. It's not really my preferred way of like getting a message across. The storytelling in the beginning is superb and I think masterfully crafted.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think the latter half it kind of does seem to fall apart a little bit, where it tackles on many different things too. Where it tackles on more with like his whole identity and his gender and all that. I didn't really see the significance of like that being a question for the audience. As opposed to just like, oh, this is a cool little detail. I didn't know how it really complemented the story, other than him desperately trying to get communication with his ex-wife.
It plays into everyone is everyone to me.
Right, but he didn't even explore that himself, or like think about those issues. Or it was just kind of mentioned at him, or like kind of conveyed to the audience as well by accidentally calling him Ellen multiple times.
Mm-hmm. A lot of miscommunication in here.
Yeah, and saying that he's menstruating. Like he didn't really dive into that himself, and I'm not saying that he should. It was just a conveyed point to the audience of like, oh yeah, this is something tangible.
Yeah, there are things that kind of are touched on, and there's potentially more to look through and try and understand how it connects if you want to do that, or you could write it off like that. But I would generally disagree with you there that like it trails off towards the end, because I think as it gets more and more involved, it gets more and more interesting to me to try and see how everything's connected. just like because it's life. Like everything connects to get you where you are on any given day. Like
Well, I didn't say
yeah.
I didn't mean like all of it. I meant in that regard, like when it introduces that idea.
Sure.
Essentially. Also, yeah, the wife just kind of fucks off and is in her own world, even though it seems like this theater project is consumed all of the world.
Yeah.
And apparently built this. It was this almost utopia because there were like some signs that the real world was in dystopia, as pointed out by Mr. Adam.
Yeah, because there's like the blimp outside and you can hear like gunshots in the street and shit, and it's just not ever addressed. It just focuses on him, and it kind of shows you, it kind of illustrates what Caden's thinking about. He's thinking about himself and like the whole world.
Yeah, and it might be also an allegory that he views the world as it's falling apart.
That too. You know? Yeah. There's just a lot here.
Just because it's not like externally mentioned anywhere else other than like, it's not mentioned outside his point of view. But everyone does die, so like, I mean, maybe because the project died along with him.
Yeah.
Or it was dying. It's tough to say.
I really love the ending of this.
I think it does get foggy a little towards the end in terms of like...
It does.
Well, yeah, it does. It does.
But,
it literally does. But I mean... and what it's like trying to convey and how it's getting to certain areas. But I think that might need a rewatch because a lot of that is based on my memory of it.
Yeah, it's trying to convey a lot at once, to be fair. So I don't feel that way. Maybe you'll still feel that way after another viewing if you ever want to get this profoundly depressed again. But maybe you won't feel that way, or maybe you will. For me, it worked, clearly. Did you want to keep talking about it?
Not really.
There's a lot to say. There's like it could just keep going forever, or we could cut it short, and I think we should do that. We probably have no business talking about it compared to someone like Adam who's going through it with a fine-tooth comb anyway.
That's what I mean. That's what I want. That's how I want to talk about these things, and I can't. So now I don't know what I'm getting more depressed about: thinking about this movie or knowing that I can't talk about how I want to in this very moment. So let's move on.
Okay. It should be my number one last, but I'm kind of more interested to hear you talk about your number one.
Oh wait, also, it's a 10 out of 10, but I think my subjective rating of it's going to be more close to an 8.
Oh, okay.
As it stands.
Oh, right, because it was, even though your number 4 was a 10. Yeah, it's kind of funny how it gets you towards the top. Yeah, okay, so I want to pull like
There's no way I can put it above human, or below human nature.
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable putting it above Eternal Sunshine, so... But sitting comfortably at number 3 out of his movies.
Yeah, so it was my number 2 and your number 3. So the time stamping for this will get a little confusing, but whatever. Yeah, this should be your number 1, but I just want to like cut you off with mine because it'll be short and sweet, and then I really want to hear what you say about your number 1. Number 1. For me, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. No one's surprised. 4 viewings at this point, and I watched it once with commentary from Kaufman and Michel Gondry as well. Directed by Michel Gondry. It's a masterpiece in my eyes. This film resonates with me the most personally, no matter what it's going for at any given moment. It works. For me, it's not overly emotional, which I already touched on. It's really funny, and the concept is universally relatable and interesting to explore. Like everyone's had this thought of going through a breakup and then like has wanted to just like, what if I just never met them, or what if like I could just erase that, like just move forward without having to deal with all this shit. And it kind of like has a really powerful kind of commentary on, what if you could do that. And it asks the right questions, I think, and explores it and leaves enough for you to ponder after. Yeah, we already did an entire episode on this film. It's a 10 out of 10 for me, one of my favorite movies ever. And that's what I'm going to say about it.
Interesting that was half a year ago now, though.
Synecdoche. Yeah. No, yeah. No, really.
We blinked and here we are still talking about the same movie.
Yeah.
The same channel. I don't know. I was thinking about that shit. It really depresses me.
That's why that movie hits you hard.
Yeah, Synecdoche. But anyways, if I can chime in for Eternal Sunshine,
Go for it.
me to stall just a bit longer. I think it's such a strength of the movie that it's able to tackle both of those different, both ends of different perceptions of life and philosophy and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck do I mean by that? That was a lot of word jargon. And that I mean the dichotomy, difference, duality of you think like, oh yeah, everyone's had that thought of like, what if I never met this person, or like wish they could just forget them, but I don't. To be personal, I still don't I still never thought like, I never wish I met this person. I think there's value in any people that I meet, no matter how shitty they are. There's value of that. It could be like shit value. It could be like just really bad, but it can ultimately teach you something about yourself.
Yeah, but that's what I think the point of the movie is, and it's kind of offering that to people who have this idea that it would just fix everything if that never happened.
To me, it's like it's more about like the memory of that something happened, which is a much personally stronger message and theme to convey. That's something that I care a lot about. And so the message I took from it, even at the end, was, especially at the end, was if given the opportunity, people would relive their relationships, or at least one of. That's what I think that everyone thinks in secret. There's lots of people who love to talk, shit on their exes and everything. But I believe if people were given the chance, I feel like, maybe not all of them. Probably, yeah, it'd be impossible to say all of them, but I feel like a large portion of them would want to relive a relationship for old time's sake.
Yeah.
Or just to get those emotions, because there's lots of positives, positive with the negative, taking what you get. Blah, blah, blah.
This is, I think, his most universally appealing movie. For example, Mo like this a lot.
Yeah, it appeals to both of that. It appeals to oh yeah, if I want you out of my life, I could. At the same time, it's if I want to relive that, I could.
But yeah, I mean, it even appeals to sci-fi people. There's nothing really that people are gonna think oh, that's pretentious or whatever. Really. But yeah, no, I get what you're saying. For me, I completely 100% am in that camp. I think the reason it's powerful is because of what you're saying. Is because it approaches that, but it kind of takes this. Jim Carrey's character is one of these people who thinks, Joel is one of these people who thinks, oh, she erased me. Well, I'm going to erase her because, they both did it because they just wanted to get over it and move on with their lives.
Out of spite and petty does and all that.
And as soon as in his head he gets to the first, nice moment when they're going backwards in time, that part that always gets me, where he gets on his knees and yells that he wants to call it off. From there on, it's just the whole point of the movie, I think, is trying to tell you this is why those memories and those experiences, they're important. But then again, we do interpret the end differently. So
yeah, well, and that's the thing too with, I feel like most people who would think that is that they don't acknowledge that they were really good memories that they like to hold on to, even subconsciously. Again, I'm generalifying.
Yeah.
Your relationship could have very well been toxic, and if it was, don't take the fuck I'm saying as oh yeah, your relationship is better than you thought.
No,
I'm speaking generally.
I see that as they're the good times that you remember, and they're worse now because that's it's hard to remember those good times because they're not happening anymore.
Or some people just blow things up, and yeah, they do that. Or people what's the word I'm looking for? So they make things larger,
exacerbate.
Exaggerate. They exaggerate how bad those times were, how bad that relationship was. But again, that's going into a whole lot of psychology. We don't need.
But then again, this is his brain, his retelling of these events.
Yeah, and I'm not also like just trying to throw my own expectation on this movie. I actually am trying to acknowledge that like I think it was deliberate.
Yeah.
And then it is like showing that it's balanced.
Yeah.
And it takes undeniably masterful craft. It has to be masterfully crafted in order to convey its messages and themes so effectively.
Right.
And there you go. That's the end.
Yeah, I think I love a lot of the smaller details in this. I didn't mean to go into it more.
Oh, I did too. You fucking started going, and I'm like, oh boy.
but the like his car having already been hit at the beginning of the movie, it's just like a little detail that plays into it. And then like,
and technically an oversight for the company doing that.
Yeah, but as the movie goes past a certain point, I think once he goes to the office to have his memories erased, like it's not in your face about it. Like the scenes just start getting weird. But ever since a certain point, everything you're seeing is in his mind, and you're already living the movie backwards, which is why you see like some scenes a little differently that already like happened, and you see like Elijah Wood, but you can't see his face because he hasn't met him yet. Yeah, like there's just a bunch of cool stuff that like everything's accounted for, the detail. It's all there. It's all great. And this is the last movie he collaborated with anyone with before he did Synecdoche, New York.
Also, I did find it unreasonable though at the end. The other actress, Mary Jane.
Kirsten
Dunst. There you go. I found it unreasonable that when after she found out about that relationship, she went to the office and fucking trashed it looking for her files. It's like, is that necessary? Like, I get the whole like meta, like the visual like comparison of when like she's like looking through other people's shit and then her own, so she's so delicate with it. But I'm like, that's just unnecessary. I mean, she organizes them anyway to fucking distribute it. So all that's doing is making her task at the end like more, more annoying. I just found that was like, why?
I don't know. That sounds a little nitpicky to me, but if you wanted me to have an explanation, it's because she's frustrated with the whole concept of what they do. She thinks it's gross now. She's disrespecting it because like she's there to return all these letters to everyone, so they know that they erased someone, and so like she decided that it's morally wrong to do this at the end of the movie.
Yes, and that's ultimately taking actions to her own hands. Which is. But that opens up a different can of morality worms, which I, disagree with. Most people would. For the sake of the movie, though, it's fine because it gets our characters to react to it, which gets to the real fucking punch at the end.
Right.
It is nitpicky. I'll admit, but I don't. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I'm just like, why would she? I just don't see how she would rationally do that if that's her goal in that point. And even then, it's just like, why? You can just like, it wouldn't be more effective to like actually like scan through as opposed to be like,
Right.
Also, last thing I will say is that I did pay attention more to the music, and I really want to learn the piano piece that's playing when he is a kid and it's raining.
It's great. John Bryan is fucking fantastic. The music in all these movies, I'm gonna say, is great. I know you
should find what song that is that I'm talking about,
sure.
So that way I can look it up. But otherwise, can't be fucking bothered to find it for myself.
Sure. Yeah, I think the music in all these is great that I can remember. I don't remember Human Nature or Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, but the rest, I like the music in.
Let's try to wrap this up. My back is getting sweaty.
Oh, yeah, we're going to... Well, you just got finished talking. Let me talk for a second. The casting. I
finished talking, therefore it's dumb. Yeah. I'm clearly, my things have more value.
Self-interest, like Kaufman said so. Is this what Kaufman was talking about?
Go.
Okay.
Talk.
So the casting in this movie, I love. Again, I guess the only choice that I could be here or there on is Kirsten Dunst, but we got Mark Ruffalo. Gotta love Mark Ruffalo in this movie. Jim Carrey, of course. Kate Winslet,
of course,
yeah. And I'm probably forgetting. We've fucking got David Cross in this movie. Okay, yeah. 10 out of 10. One of my favorite movies. Talked about it longer than I thought we would. We do have a whole podcast on it. Again, if you want to hear what past us said about it, check that out. And your number one. I'm excited to just hear your deep dive into your brain on your number one here. So go for it.
All right. Well, the number one is obviously The Last Jedi. My favorite Star Wars movie. It's the objectively the best.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, not objectionally. You can't object to me. I'm right because it's Star Wars. The fuck am I doing? I'm just stalling. All right. Yeah. It's I'm thinking of many things.
Which is funny because we watched this like 2 days ago, and I really didn't know.
Shows how quickly we crank these things out.
Yeah. I didn't have a read on you for this movie.
I like to think you didn't really have a read on me for a lot of them, other than being John Malkovich. But even then, I still surprised you.
Yeah, they could have gone any way for a lot of these, aside from being John Malkovich.
Well, frankly, I think this movie and Eternal Sunshine are both equally effective in portrayal of what it's trying to get across.
Mm-hmm.
Portrayal, misspeak. But I found more connection to this movie than Eternal Sunshine.
Which is surprising.
Yeah, it's much more introspective too, but
much more bleak.
Yeah. it is very bleak, but I was more able to latch onto the message in the janitor character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. I love this movie. What do you want from me?
No, I love that you love it.
Yeah, the dialogue was engaging, like you said. It's also very different in how the girl changes the way she talks too.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, I was just like, oh, there's like a lot of depth to this to this girl, and then I was just like, oh yeah, so she is made up. Fuck. I mean, yeah, that narrative like is probably it is the intended way, but when I was watching the first time, I definitely thought that this was an actual event that happened,
mm-hmm.
and everything that was being told was like a reflection of that memory. And Jake went the rest of his life being mostly unfulfilled, and was now a janitor looking back at this point,
right?
As opposed to making it up in his head entirely,
mm-hmm.
And which is why I get lots of enjoyment out of this movie, because I really like movies that have different lenses that you can see things through, different angles, if you will, interpretations and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, in terms of storytelling and presentation, I just ultimately prefer it.
Right.
Not prefer it to Eternal Sunshine. They're both really similar. Although this one is a bit more linear than the other one. Also, it's going to sound totally like projecting, but there's a lot of The Shining influence in this movie, with the feeling of being isolated, the engaging at disjointed dialogue,
mm-hmm.
The howling wind and the fucking overbearing snow.
Definitely a horror movie.
Yeah, much more horror. Yeah, first of all, fucking hell, you really should have warned me more that this was going to be a horror movie. I found, okay, here's the other part of that is...
I think I told you casually.
Here's the part where it's more subjective, but I found this to be so terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Just because...
This in Synecdoche, honestly.
I sound... I'm
Less
sound
so.
like a more, fucking eccentric, I guess... what's it?
I don't know.
What we get energy from fucking people? How is my brain this
introvert,
fucking stupid?
extrovert?
Extroverted. Thank you. I don't know how I get these fucking mental blockages like the size of a fucking pea. Anyway,
that happens.
Yeah, more extroverted, but like I'm just whenever things get more uncomfortable, like socially, to watch like cringe. I hate cringe humor just because of that.
Mm-hmm.
But all this movie was just social uncomfortableness. And I fucking hated it.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, this is so like, I hate it. It's awful. It's so disjointed and just, that's why I say it's subjective, because it's something that is like affects me way more than other people.
Right.
Like I can't handle the uncomfortableness and like social things. It obviously depends.
But it is meant to do it too, which is I
Yeah,
guess,
no, it's deliberate, but I feel as though it was like,
points. Yeah.
it was effective in it trying to be more horror themed.
Yeah, absolutely.
More more terrifying.
It's a different kind of horror, yeah.
Yeah. And except for the dinner scene, I just got frustrated with the dad character. I was just like, well, if I can't see myself in the painting, how am I supposed to feel it? Like that, I wasn't uncomfortable like the girl character. Like I don't know. I felt as though if someone was talking to me about my art like that, I would have a fucking field day. I wouldn't be like, I mean, you just, I don't know. I'd be like, are you fucking stupid, mate?
Right. It's there are people like that though.
Oh yeah, no, of course there are people like that. Just like how, some people are more mentally handicapped than others.
Wow.
I'm just saying. If people say that, I mean, I'm calling it like it is. But beside the point of the movie,
but yeah, you could take that as like I only want to call him Todd.
Also,
as Jake thinking like like YMS said in his video, like,
also,
what if I brought home an artist and how like his parents would react to that?
Right.
He was just imagining his dad wouldn't get it or whatever, whatever.
Right.
Sorry, go.
No, yeah, for sure. That's why there's a lot of inconsistency with what she's studying.
Yep.
And all of that. Let's see. I don't know, there's just so much really to like about here, because even the female lead's character is pretty strongly written for even if it's like all in his head. If this is all in the janitor's head, he should quit his job and fucking become a screenwriter. Maybe I'm convinced that that Kaufman was a high school janitor until he had an idea like this, and he was like, you know what, I'm gonna follow my dreams. And here we are.
I am kind of interested in the book. I wonder if I would think it's better or worse or just good on its own.
Yeah,
right,
I'm interested too. I didn't think it was a few like other pieces I've heard about in terms of description.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know my name though. I am not a book reader, sadly.
Yeah, I've just heard it's much less ambiguous.
Yeah, it made aging terrifying, more terrifying than it really is.
The makeup
fucking
was good
sucks.
too.
Oh, the makeup. I thought you were referring to the stage makeup at the end.
Oh no, I meant like for his parents.
Right, yeah.
But that too.
Just seeing them at different ages was just so fucking just like, huh.
Yeah, and Toni Collette was great. Who was in The Mom in Hereditary
Here's
also.
the thing, I would. Oh, that's who she was. I thought she looked familiar.
Mm-hmm.
No wonder I was already off put by her appearance. That explains it.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, like I could talk about this movie at length. I just lack the words.
The janitor's clothes being in the basement is great.
Yeah, or I didn't really notice that this is a janitor's. I mean, I did later when I saw like the logo.
Yeah.
I just got that more of like if Jake had his way, he'd lead a really mundane life. Go as far to wearing the same thing every day.
Yeah. And there's, sorry to like cut that short, but just while I'm thinking about it, like that heartbreaking fucking kind of like just spirit destroying
also
revelation that like this girl that we've been seeing the whole movie, like he just like saw her one night at this place and thought about talking to her.
Yeah, and it was just a missed opportunity. God, that was so fucking sad.
And that's like, he didn't even talk to me. I was just fucking creeped out because like I wish my boyfriend was there. Like, yeah, stuff YMS already pointed out. Like, there's no way he could have known that she thought all these things. This is how much he's projecting hatred onto himself, like through this girl, this sentient thought of his. It's just so fucking dark and yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I did really enjoy the girl character and her introspection as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then there was a recurring line of the movie title of that,
which I like,
and that's how it starts. Yeah, I love that. With because
you think it's about a relationship
meanings.
at first.
Oh no, I definitely was like, oh, it's suicide.
Yeah, but
like,
contextually, like it's supposed to be she's talking about this relationship, and then like,
Then yeah,
it's always ambiguous though.
But it becomes a little more clear or more clearly communicated that this is what the old man janitor is thinking about his own life. But even like before watching this movie, I was like, man, what a title to a movie of like how many different meanings it can show. I'm certain with the Kaufman movie that it's going to dive into that, and it did. So I'm satisfied in that area.
Do you think it's more or less depressing than Synecdoche?
No. I find Synecdoche more depressing, actually.
Okay. Yeah. I want to show you Carson's video on this, which I'll recommend to everyone out there, too.
But that's just based on how I reacted to it and what I took from certain things. As a whole, what is probably... I don't know. It's hard to measure, like, what is more depressing.
Yeah.
It's a subjective thing.
Yeah. But I did want to recommend everyone Carson Runquist's video on this movie. I found it quite good.
What I found heartbreaking was
good dive into
the hug at the end between the janitor and the girl.
Mm-hmm.
And even like before fully concluding that like she's a figment of her imagination, I was just like, he's about to die. I didn't know that he was gonna, with the intent of taking his own life. I was just like, he knows he's gonna die. Yeah, by whether his own hand or not, regardless. Mm-hmm. And it was signifying him saying goodbye to those memories.
Mm-hmm.
So it's another like angle to take that from.
And then there's some.
I found that fucking tragic.
Mm-hmm. And then there's some meta ambiguity at the end.
And then
it kind of goes off the wall.
And then there's also like, some things to delve into, like he's old, so he could be forgetting certain things, and this is the last time that he has a chance to reflect on this memory, albeit not the most positive thing, but more positive in the rest of the context of his life, assumably.
You see, that he's thinking about ending things. No, I'm just kidding. About how much he like took care of his parents and how much like he didn't waste his time. Like he was a good dude. He feels like he, maybe to a degree, like I tried my best and like this is ultimately where my life ended up, and like I don't know, just something to think about too.
I found Jake just so fucking annoying, just in general. I like the girl so much better.
Yeah,
just as a person, I get. It's not a fault the movie.
Well, yeah, it is his view of himself, and he's really
that's true.
Not portrayed as someone who people would like.
I do find it interesting though that the girl is the one that beats him out on arguments, but it's his own head, so it's like I don't know. It's
just a way to have like his sentient thought put him down. But I was just getting at like. It's clear that he thinks about how much time he like spent taking care of his parents or whatever, and like, just kind of like some of the better aspects of him that he wishes someone would appreciate about him and notice, I guess, is how I took that.
Well, yeah, it's pretty forward about that.
Yeah, so cool. I'm glad because like I didn't know where that one would sit for you. For me, ironically, like this fits in the middle of my list. I think it's a fucking fantastic movie. Like it's at 4. That's just how good Kaufman's movies are, I guess. In my opinion, that something like this could land like halfway through this list. I'm glad we did the podcast. You seem thoroughly depressed.
Yes, I am now.
Yeah.
I lack the emotional capacity at the moment to talk more in depth on it. But maybe at some point in the future when I'm at a better mental state, I will write an essay on it and get back to you on it.
Good. Well, I'm glad you liked a handful of these movies. I'm glad you liked most of them.
I enjoy them. They're really great artistic pieces. Just fuck you for making me watch them.
And in such rapid succession.
Getting me sad and actually giving me like terrible nightmares about my own life. So appreciated.
Yeah, I guess these did that and David Lynch didn't even do that. Wow.
David Lynch is just a little more abstract.
Yeah.
It's a lot more to like meant to throw yourselves onto.
Mm.
But, Kaufman just tackles a lot of universal human flaws and thoughts and traits and things like that.
Mhm.
More common in our demographic, admittedly, but still, that's what I mean. That gets back to what I said, is that if you can watch one of these movies, exception of, in my opinion, John Malkovich and Confessions of a Dangerous Mind,
or even Human Nature, I would say, or Adaptation,
or
I don't
even
know.
Adaptation, I would say.
Yeah.
Human Nature, it's like that's the middle. But if you can watch, the other ones, those other movies, and not be emotionally affected by it or have anything to take away from it or feel,
like to reflect on,
or even feel the effects of it the next day, you're subhuman.
that's a strong statement.
It's fucking true. You're not there emotionally. Like you're psychotic then. You lack any empathy or sympathy for other people, and you're fucking what's the word? You're a sociopath. Well, frankly.
Or you're just hypercritical and think that they're pretentious and he's annoying or something. I don't know.
I mean, you can think that, but then they're clearly repressing like what it made them feel, and they're probably in self-denial themselves.
There are people who think like Kaufman's pretty pretentious, but then he can borderline on it. But I don't find any of these particularly.
But if people can admit that they feel it and still draw that conclusion that's pretentious and everything, then I don't know. I think they lack the mental capacity to really enjoy other less straightforward movies.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
But again, that's
your take.
A little more broad. I don't know. I'm not going to say that definitively. I'm just kind of saying that to make jabs, to be dramatic, if you will.
To be provocative. Okay. Yeah.
If you think it's pretentious, then there's other problems then, and more things to discuss rather than that. But I'll stand by the whole emotional thing.
Right.
Anyway.
All right. That's it. We did it. We talked about all the movies, all the Kaufman movies. And
I'm still here.
Yay. And there's nothing
Everybody's happy about that.
I'm really glad you liked your number one as much as you did, because that's his most recent thing. Maybe you can also anticipate a new Kaufman project. It'll be in like 5 years or so.
Oh, I'll anticipate it like I'll anticipate cancer. I don't
know. Okay.
Okay. That's a line that would be in a Kaufman movie. So
yeah,
don't even at me.
So yeah, next week. We already announced this. We're going to be going over Linklater, Richard Linklater's The Before trilogy, Before Sunset, Before Midnight, and the third one. I can't even remember all their names right now. I haven't seen any of them, but we're going to discuss those, which means we've got 3 movies to watch this week, and the Shining miniseries.
Yay!
As per Skylar's recommendation.
Yeah, I don't know why I recommended it. I did this for you. Don't ever say I don't do shit for you. This is for you.
Okay, yeah, I'll do something for you.
I'm not like, oh boy, I gotta watch the Shining miniseries. Oh boy, I wonder if my feelings change on it.
I'll rec you something that I think you'll really like coming up to repay you. Not that you thought I would really like this, but
no. I just kind of wanted more of an opportunity to actually thoroughly shit on it.
Right. So,
all right.
Thoughts are out there. Cool. Yeah. So join us next week for those. I'm glad we did this.
Yeah. So maybe by next week I'll have recovered from the series of movies.
Yeah. You said that this was going to be like a shorter one, and it's not. So.
Well, it's average length. It's still, I'm happy with the length that we left off. I mean, I'm not, but
yeah,
as per what we have to do today and what I have to do tonight, then I'm perfectly fine with this.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone.
Alrighty. Well, if you don't mind me,
this is a good memorable one for me.
I'm gonna go.
Blow out a candle.
Yeah, I'm gonna go blow out a candle, then order Chipotle, then go into the pool, then watch Beavis and Butthead and listen to Ween. Just all of my fucking coping strategies for all this. So
great.
Until then, we'll see you in the next podcast next week. Thank you all for listening.
Let's blow out this candle.
Malkovich.